Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dieselpunk Wars. I do hope that you are able to see the game's footage right now. Unfortunately, we are having a few technical difficulties, but apparently, okay, there we go, the game footage is now properly displayed. My apologies, live streaming is sometimes a little bit of a difficult task, but thankfully everything works now as it should, so we can go ahead and resume talking about our game. So this is our second Dieselpunk Wars inaugurational live stream. Dieselpunk Wars has just released on Steam a few hours ago. I already hosted one live stream to talk a little bit about the game and showcase all of its new features, as well as to answer any and all questions that the players and viewers had about this game. So before further ado, I'm one of the developers working on Dieselpunk Wars, and I represent Image Power, the studio behind this title. If at any point of this live stream you have a question or a comment, please share them and I'll do my best to answer them. Just keep in mind that due to the stream delay, it'll probably take me a few minutes before I can actually respond to a question, but I'll do my best to respond to all of them. Let us begin by talking a little bit about Dieselpunk Wars itself. Dieselpunk Wars just released in Steam Early Access. If you have been interested in the title before, you will know that there is also a game on Steam called Dieselpunk Wars Prologue, which is free, whereas Dieselpunk Wars itself is not free. You may be thinking, why is it? What's the difference between the two games? Let me explain. Dieselpunk Wars Prologue is and always will be a free version of Dieselpunk Wars with limited features but just as much fun. It has about 120 or so modules, one map and one game mode, creative game mode. So it should be enough to give you a taste of what Dieselpunk Wars has to offer. More than a taste really, it's fun to play in my opinion. But Dieselpunk Wars itself, the full release that just went live today, oh, it has a lot more to offer than just that. First and foremost, it has 3 different game modes. A campaign mode, which should last you for a few hours of proper gameplay. It has a creative mode, which you know from Dieselpunk Wars Prologue. And it has a battle simulator that allows you to set up different armies controlled by AI and see how they battle it out on a map of your choosing. You can also even choose to assume control of any of the AI-controlled ships, so you can take the control away from the AI and switch between the ships at will. So you can create fun, amazing battles and fight on both sides of the conflict, because hey, why not? This is not everything, of course. Whereas the prologue version, the free version, only has 1 map, the full version has 4 maps readily available for you. The race map, which features mostly a harsh swamp-like area, which might be difficult to traverse, except for one very fun racetrack in the middle of the map, which is the predominant feature of the map. It has a desert map, which is the largest map of all of the maps in this game. It is humongous, and if you want a place to test out your largest creations, this is the place where you want to go. Be wary though, visibility is somewhat low on the desert map because of the dust storm. We also have a forest map, which is more of a hilly, mountainy type of map really. It's mostly a place for smaller vehicles. It's also a map that is first played in the campaign. It's a place where you can enjoy combat on a smaller scale and see how you can traverse a difficult territory, since, you know, it's not that easy to move around in a forest, especially with rock formations and the like. So if you want a challenge and a difficult traversable terrain, that's where you want to go. And finally, fans' favorite island map, which is where you want to go if you want to have fun with a large navy. Enough said, really. If you want to see massive battles duke it out, that's where you gotta go. Although there is also quite a bit of land area if you want to see those tank battles as well, so I do wholeheartedly recommend you check this map as well. Moreover, Dieselpunk Wars also features an extensive tutorial. I will not play through it, I already know how to play this game, but I do recommend that everybody else who's new to the game and maybe maybe wants to learn how it plays out, well, in that case, the tutorial is just for you. If you have only a specific question about the game, for instance, how does reflective armor work? You can just click on the appropriate lesson and you will learn all there is to learn. Dieselpunk Wars is not only a vehicle creating game, and not only a game where you can destroy said vehicles, but it also has a very advanced physics engine. allowing you to tear ships in half and still have them somewhat work. It allows you to it also takes into account every individual shot. Every projectile is actually calculated in the engine. It can bounce off your armor if its speed, velocity and angle of impact is right, or it can penetrate your armor instead if it's armor piercing and has a high enough entry velocity. Moreover, there are also other aspects of the game that are very advanced, such as air drag. Individual areas that can be flooded in your vessel or set on fire, and all of this good stuff. But enough of me talking about the game, let me show it to you real quick. We're going to go into a creative mode for a moment, and I already showcased the island's map, but I talked so much about it, I might as well start with the island map. It is also the same map that you would see in the prologue. So as we wait for the loading screen to finish and I make sure that all of our live streaming software works correctly, it seems like it does. So we can now go ahead and begin the presentation of the game. So right now I'm using one of the custom crosshairs. There are different crosshairs to choose from, but for now I'm going to go ahead and stick with the one I have, which is exclusive to Kickstarter backers, and I also have access to it since I'm one of the developers. As you can see, this is the game area. This is where you spend half of your time just traversing the area and also obviously fighting enemy vehicles. In the creative mode you can spawn new vehicles simply by pressing F2, which is the fastest way to get into the action at a moment's notice. If you just launch the game and want to really quickly start blowing things up, just launch creative mode, press F2 and immediately a vehicle will spawn. You can even spawn more vehicles than just one, because hey, why not? Sometimes they might spawn real close to you, sometimes they might spawn a little bit further away. Well, either way, there should be plenty of things for you to do if you just want to see how things blow up. For now, I'm way over my head with my puny vehicle, so let us go ahead and restart. I'm going to also teleport back to my starting island, and I'll showcase you something else, the build mode, which is going to be a place where you spend the other half of the time while you're playing this game. Build mode is very expansive. It allows you to create all sorts of vehicles, starting from this puny, pathetic, but adorable looking beetle, which is functional enough and fairly fast, to monstrosities such as, for instance, the Final Hour, which is a ship I created today live on a stream when we were launching the game. Now Dieselpunk Wars is already launched, I had my break and I can continue live streaming. So this is a ship I created on the previous live stream. You can find the rerun of the live stream on our YouTube channel, but I'll obviously show you how you can build such vehicles later down the line, step by step. We're teaching you all of the basics, and I'll create some simple vehicle as well, although probably not a flying one since I already made a fun flying vehicle. Still, I believe that this one should have a much easier... oh, how nice, a rematch. This vehicle should have a much easier time fighting against any other threats, unlike the Beetle which I played before. As you can see, I switched cameras. There are different cameras to choose from. Right now I decided to go with the underdeck camera because this ship has most of its guns underneath, whereas my main guns are somewhat obscured by the balloon I put at the top of the ship, which in hindsight maybe wasn't the best idea for construction of the ship, but hey, this ship is functional and that is what matters. As you can see, the enemy ship is going down, as am I actually, so let's go ahead and slow down the descent. The enemy ship, of course, isn't giving up. This is Dieselpunk Wars. Even when your ship is torn in pieces and nearly destroyed and there are only a few bits and pieces left of it, you can still fly around, you can still fight. There's one essential piece that cannot be destroyed, however, and that is your command block. Mine is hidden deep inside my construction, so it's very difficult for anybody to destroy it. But I promised I'll show you how to control and build such vehicles. I'll do that just right now. So first of all, controlling this game. First of all, this game is mostly controlled in the play mode via keyboard and mouse. See, I can control the camera with my mouse, I can move with W, A, S and D buttons, I can increase my lift by pressing spacebar, or rather holding spacebar, I can lower my lift by holding Control. You can of course rebind these controls in the options menu, so, you know, which is I believe standard in the industry at this moment. Now, moreover, you can also fire with the left mouse button. You can choose which weapons you want to fire by setting them out initially. As you can see right now, I have 3 groups of weapons located at the bottom of the screen: the first group, second group, and the third group. If I only want to fire with some of those guns, I can choose to do that without an issue. As you can see right now, I'm only firing with my underbelly guns instead of using all of my guns as I would right now. So you have this level of control. If you want to bring your mouse cursor for any reason at any point, you just press the middle mouse button, and as you can see, a mouse cursor appears and I can use it to click anything I want. Although obviously most of the things in this game have hotkeys, so you shouldn't necessarily need your mouse button for all that many things. Nevertheless, it might be useful to bring it out every now and again. Now, as for the carnage itself, just to remind you, we are currently in the creative mode of Dieselpunk Wars. I'm going to go ahead and load into one of our showpiece vehicles, the Hammer, which is one of the first vehicles that ever got its concept art created. I'm going to go ahead and showcase how you can control this vehicle. I'm going to also slightly modify it, because I believe it could be maybe a little bit stronger if I enabled auto-aim on my turrets. As you can see, there's a very high level of customization for all of your vehicles. Right now in build mode I can choose so that some of my turrets actually fire on their own without my control, which should make my task a lot easier. Moreover, I can repair individual parts, change their colors, and if I wanted to change colors of multiple parts at the same time, I could use the paint tool and make sure that my vehicle is, for instance, red. I could also quickly paint even my armor material as well as armor thickness, since as you can see there are several different armor types to choose from in this game. All of them can apply to your blocks and they will have different effects. Right now I'm going for the ugliest possible combination of colors, I believe, but such is the way of things. That happens and it is enough, I suppose. Very well, so now that I have showcased how to edit that, I'll also showcase you decals, since we can not only have the ability to paint ships, you can also apply decals. Some of them were created by wonderful Kickstarter backers, some of them are our own creations. So for instance, if I wanted to showcase that, hey, this game was backed on Kickstarter, I could do that. I could rotate this, I could scale it or whatnot. For now, I'm just going to go with a heart icon and add it on my turret, and you will see that it also is going to obviously move with the turret as well. So there we go. Those are all the menus. I'll teach you how to use the build mode later down the line, but it does have a very intuitive menu where you can sort all of the parts that are in the game so that you find the one that you care about the most. You can find the coolest guns such as the plasma turret and the gravity manipulator and whatnot. So all of those things are in the game. You can also search for elements just by tapping their name. You have a lot of freedom. You can then assign different parts to your hotbar. So if I wanted to add a new gun, I could just assign it to my hotbar and then quickly add it wherever I pleased, for instance at the back of my vehicle. Sure, why not? Let's go ahead and add it. There is also a mirror mode, so if I wanted to make things a little bit easier and faster for myself, I could just use the mirror mode and then modify my turret so that they also have auto aim in the back, because hey, why not? I can rotate my vehicle while in build mode by holding Z and X buttons, and that's, I believe, is it. There are of course numerous hotbars for you to use when using the build mode, as well as you have the ability to actually change the way your menu looks. If you believe that there is too much clutter, no problems, you can go ahead and choose to remove some of the menus. You can enable some of the other menus. It's all up for you to decide how you want things to be set up. So you really do have a number of possibilities. While in creative mode, there are a number of different ways you can fight with your enemies as well. I already showcased that you can just press F2 to spawn a random enemy in a location nearby, but you can also create new vehicles. You can create them from scratch, or you can load a pre-existing vehicle. So if you were to do that, for instance, maybe I would want to fight against a steamer. I could load it, I could rotate it for no reason, and then I could assign it to be controlled not by player but by pirates. And this will mean that I'll now fight against this particular vehicle, and we'll see how well my vehicle fares. Maybe I believe that I'm a bit too close to the enemy vehicle for this fight. I can now hold shift and use WASD to move my vehicle further away. This is only possible in the creative mode. Obviously in the campaign mode you still have some movement possibilities when moving your vehicle, but they are limited so that you cannot cheat and just go to the end of the map while the game is paused in the build mode. Now I'll press enter to go back into the proper play mode, and I'll show this vessel what it means to be on the game's main concept art. There we go. As you can see, the enemy stood no chance against me. Of course, if I were to spawn a lot more vehicles, eventually the tides could turn and it could be a little bit more difficult for me to actually hold my ground, especially against flying ships, because these could possibly get above me and drop their nukes, not nukes, but bombs on top of me. That being said, it is going to be mighty difficult for them, since they would have to reach a proper height so that they wouldn't blow up themselves. Now, as you can see, the enemy ships, they tend to blow up rather quickly, but it's not because every ship has a set HP pool. Instead, every ship's module, every individual block has its individual HP value, which means that if you want, every individual part of the ship can be destroyed independently of other parts of the ship. So, as you can see, the enemy ship I'm firing at, it lost some of its parts, but it's still swimming around, it's still fighting. But now I blew up some critical component, most likely its command module, maybe an ammo block, and the enemy is no more. Now, as you can see, there are still more enemies for me to fight, but with my ship, I don't believe there is going to be much of a problem for me to finish the enemy off. I am, after all, piloting a ship that is one of the bigger ships that we have readily available for our players, although by no means it is the biggest ship you can make in this game. Now, what just happened was me clearing a spawn point. There are a few spawn markers such as this hidden around the map. In the creative mode, they are yellow, orange and red, with yellow being the easiest to complete and red being the most difficult to complete. I'm going to showcase it by activating the red spawn marker now. I'll use some of my afterburners as well, which I can activate with the shift button. As you can see, the way your ships move and the way they fire, it all depends on how you create your ships. Right now the ship has been created in such a way that it is very fast and very sturdy, and it has enormous firepower. But it doesn't have a very tight turn, as you can see, and it forces me to run into some trees as I'm trying to open fire on an enemy that I just spawned. So there we go, we can now engage in combat, and the enemy's vehicle is actually very heavily armored, which means that it's going to be a bit more of a challenge, and you can see individual parts falling apart as we're battling it out. And the enemy is trying to find a proper kind of angle, but me being a human player, obviously I have the advantage against the AI, and I will keep abusing the one weakness in the enemy's armor that I created, and I'll try to separate part of the enemy's vehicle with the rest. And it looks like I managed to hit the enemy ammo supply, which resulted in the enemy's utter annihilation. Unfortunately, I'm also stuck. I could become unstuck by going back into build mode, but if I cannot enter build mode, for instance when I'm in active combat, I can simply press the asterisk button to reset my position. And also, this is going to fix my ship if I am not currently in active combat. If I am in active combat, pressing the asterisk will not fix your ship, it will merely reset its position. So there is that. Alright, that was a pretty decent showcase of the creative mode. I'll teach you how to create a vehicle in a second, but first I want to go back to main menu and showcase the battle simulation mode. I am thinking about showcasing the campaign mode as well, but I really don't want to spoil you the fun of the campaign, and I know that a lot of players would rather avoid spoilers when it comes to story missions. So I am still on the fence whether or not I'll actually showcase the campaign. Anywho, as we're loading into the battle simulator, I encourage you to check out Dieselpunk Wars on Steam and see if it's something you like, give it a try, add it to wishes if you're not interested in buying it just yet, or you know, buy it, and we at Image Power will be eternally grateful for your support. Give me a moment as I take a sip of my tea. Alright, and it looks like there is some issue I need to take care of related to the Dieselpunk's release. So I'll real quick go back to the main menu, my apologies, and we'll be right back. I'll let you listen to the game's soundtrack as I deal with an issue, so please just give me 5 minutes and I'll be at your disposal again. Alright, I am now back and you should see the game image momentarily. Just give me a second as everything is being set up anew. There was something I had to take care of real quick since we just launched our game, and as you may imagine, it does require me to be present at certain things when it comes to making sure that everything flows smoothly for our players that are enjoying the game. So, as I was trying to do, I'm going to now showcase the Battle Simulator mode for you. Battle Simulator, again, you can choose the map you want to fight on. I'm going to choose the desert map since it is one of the new maps we have added with the full release of Dieselpunk Wars. By full release, I mean proper release, as opposed to the release of Dieselpunk Wars Prologue, which is a free title. Of course, Dieselpunk Wars is currently in early access, and we're going to continue improving the game, although the game is already mostly complete. We need to have player feedback in order to iron out some bugs and work on the balance a little bit, which is the main reason why we're on early access. And we're also, which is important, going to obviously roll out more features throughout this time period. For instance, the next major patch is going to include an endless mode, which will pit you against increasingly powerful waves of enemies, and as you defeat more enemies, you'll be able to upgrade your vehicle further, but of course you'll face stronger enemies as well. So, you know, there's a balance to everything. This mode is going to be in our next major update. So with that in mind, I'm going to now showcase how the Battle Simulator mode works for you exactly. It's fairly self-explanatory and very simple. If I want to observe a battle between AI, I can simply drag a vehicle from my save files. I can rotate it with X or Z. I can tell it to be a ram type of vehicle so that it will try to get as close to the enemy as possible and ram them. And then I can choose to spawn a different vehicle for the enemy team, in this case the blue team. Again, I'll set it to be a ram. Why not? Let's have those two vehicles attack each other. Now it is a little bit on the weak side, so I'm going to give it a few more vehicles. Let's make it 3 versus 2, shall we? So, or maybe 3 versus 1. I'll add a shoe car, which is a very weak vessel, and we'll see how it goes. Just to make it seem like it's more fair, even though it's going to be less fair, I'm going to give the red team a Beetle as well. Or you know what, I'll set the Beetle to be a pirate team so that it will fight everybody, and it's going to be a very, very sad and lonely ship in the middle of this combat. So now if I want to, I can just press enter and see how the AI destroys that poor Beetle in the middle. So as you can see, the desert map is a perfect place for large-scale battles. We're only seeing part of the map. Oh, wow. It looks like the Mr. 5 ship is having some problems. And in fact, it looks like it might even lose altogether. So that's interesting. Now, as a player, you can also take control over the enemy ships at any point. So, for instance, I can choose that, hey, I don't like where this Poseidon Bident is. I can choose to move it out of the way. and actually flip because I was moving too fast and I rolled down the hill. So now the Poseidon Biden is severely weakened, but as you can see, oof, and I was team killed by the other ship with the drills. So yeah, it happens. And then I can give away the control of the ship and, for instance, take control over Mr. 5 and see how well I can do with that. Well, Mr. 5 is actually kind of fast now that it's lost its front section. Or maybe I want to give the control back to the AI, then I can simply click on free camera button and I'll be able to see again the battle in its entirety. Or I can go ahead and quickly reset everything and set it up so that we change the way that this battle functions, which isn't an issue at all. If I wanted to, for instance, remove a ship, I could simply select a ship and remove it, and then maybe I would like to add a different ship. Well, for instance, I could decide that red team is going to be a flying team, so I could give it a thundercloud, and maybe I'd also want to give it one of the more powerful ships, the Sea Monster, which is by default blue, but we're going to make it red because we're rebels like that. You can also just move it on the map by holding the left mouse button. And again, observe how the AI fight, and also you can now see the physics system in action, how some of the shots and projectiles are bouncing off the armor of our vessels, while others are exploding, and there are some bombs dropping down from the thunder cloud, but it doesn't look like they were able to make contact with anything. And Mr. 5, it seems like it has... Wait, that's a Sea Monster. It has a very good advantage and is destroying the enemies quite handily, but looks like something impacted its ammo stockpile, and the Sea Monster isn't so tough anymore. It's now being taken apart by the enemies, and since it doesn't have most of its ammo supplies, it has a hard time firing and it's now gone. And again, if I chose to, I could now take control of the Thundercloud. I don't know where the Thundercloud is going. It's going very far away. But as you can see, I guess the Thundercloud wanted to showcase some more of the desert map for you, which I will do in a second. First of all, however, I want to take revenge for my fallen brethren and destroy the enemies. As you can see, bombs are dropping. I'm probably dropping way too many, way too fast. And yeah, I think I dropped bombs on everything except my enemies. No, I did somewhat hit. And then I can go back to the free camera without an issue. So as you can see, setting up different kinds of battles in the battle simulator is really very easy, and right now the AI is continuing the fight on its own and wrecking this Shuka, which, even though it was the weakest vehicle of all, is still up there. And this bit of the Sea Monster, wait, that's not the Sea Monster, that's the minimum effort. It's still fighting and firing. As the Thundercloud is having some troubles, as you can see, most of its balloons have blown up and now it cannot even control the way it flies. That's the end for it, I believe. That is the end. Very well. I shall now go back to the main menu and showcase some more things. And as we're in the main menu, give me a second, as I again am asked to handle something off of the stream, which is fine. I'll go ahead and deal with that, and then I'll show you exactly how to build your favorite ship in Dieselpunk Wars, so stay tuned for that. Alright, I have now returned, and exactly as promised, I'm going to go ahead and showcase how to create your favorite kind of vehicle. So I'm going to go ahead and jump straight into the creative mode, and I'm going to create a vehicle on the race map, since I haven't shown it to you this live stream. I have shown it today, but not on this live stream, so I'm going to deal with it in a second. And there we go. So we're now in creative mode on our race map. As you'll soon find out, the race map is called a race map because it does have a rather impressive racetrack in the middle. Let's go ahead and find it, but I'll first quickly change into a different vehicle. Blade Racer. Sounds like a vehicle I could use for racing, although it's actually, despite its name, not the most stable and not the fastest. But it is heavily armored, at the very least, so if I were to fight somebody else, it would do well. I wasn't looking though, and I fell into a river, so I'm going to go ahead and load a different vehicle. Let's go ahead and load, why not, I'm going to load the hammer again, because seeing such a massive vehicle should be quite a something on a racetrack. So I'm going to drive to the racetrack, I'm going to showcase the racetrack to you, and once I'm done with that bit of showcase, I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can create magnificent creations such as this tank. Again, the game I'm showcasing is Dieselpunk Wars, and if you have any questions about this game whatsoever, oof, sorry, billboard, I did not mean to destroy you. If you have any questions about this game whatsoever, please go ahead and type them in the chat, or you can visit our Discord channel. We do have a Discord channel set up. We also are active on the Steam forums. Obviously, I right now am not looking at the Steam forums since I'm currently busy live streaming the game, but I'll answer any questions I see in the chat, either Steam chat or on YouTube or anywhere else. As you can see, I'm right now showcasing the track, and this vehicle really isn't made to be on this track, and it fell, and it's now being crushed under its own weight. It is a very, very heavy vehicle, so it only makes sense that it would happen. Maybe I should try a different one. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to load something smaller, something faster. Dastardly Fog. This should be a nice vehicle. Of course, on this map, the quirk is that there is a rain falling, which means that everything is, you know, it's hard to actually keep your grip on the track. So it's very easy to drift, but it's hard to stay on the track unless you're very good at compensating. So there is a track, as you can see, I can move around on it. There are some campaign missions involving the track. Of course, you can also just race on it for the fun of it, if you so desire. You can spawn some enemies. Oh hey, I recognize you. Oops. And I hit the side of the track, which is a problem. Nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and ignore this enemy. And just that was a high hill. I shouldn't have gone down that slope. Nevertheless, this is how you can just simply have fun on the racetrack. Now, as for creating vehicles, however, that is a different matter entirely. So let me find some nice cozy place where I could go ahead and create something. Oh, I know where I could create a vehicle. Let's go over there. So I can see the rest of the map that isn't a racetrack is just marshlands with a lot of water, although it's very shallow water. So it's a very difficult area to traverse, but it's going to be fun. There is a bit of a base. Right now it's not shooting at me, it is neutral towards me, although don't expect it to always be neutral. There are instances in which you can have it so that this base is actually fighting you. So if you see this base later on when you play the game and think, oh, it's fine, it's not gonna do anything to me, nah, it might do something to you, it might be quite painful. Nevertheless, let us go ahead and start creating a vehicle from scratch. Again, there are some vehicles I created just today. For instance, there is the Final Hour, which I created as we were counting down towards the Dieselpunk Wars release. So that was rather exciting. But I'm going to now showcase how you can create something entirely new, even though I just created this awesome vehicle, and I keep wanting to showcase it because of how fun it is. But nevertheless, even though it is fun, it's time to showcase something from scratch. So let's work on a tank, maybe. If we're working on a tank, then this map is really not optimal for this. It's very difficult for a tank to traverse it, but I'm going to make do my best to make a fun, functioning tank. So, first of all, this is the most important module you have in your vehicle. This is the command block. If you lose the command block, your vehicle is destroyed. It doesn't matter how fit for a fight your vehicle is outside of your command block. If you lose it, that's game over. You have to create a new vehicle. This vehicle isn't going to go anywhere else without the command block. So you have to protect it at all times, especially since it is quite vulnerable. How do you do this then? Well, I'll show that in a second. First of all, I'll again explain the intricacies of the build mode. As you can see, the build mode, as showcased already, has 4 different hotbars where you can assign new parts. And I'm going to do that, go ahead and make good use of it right now by assigning all the essential parts a vehicle will need. So, first of all, a vehicle definitely needs crew to operate its many guns, engines and other things of this nature. A vehicle is also going to need some engines, as I mentioned, and since we're playing Dieselpunk Wars, we're not going to use steam engines or gas turbines. Nah, they're all not diesel enough. I'm going to use huge diesel engines. Finally, I realize that I probably want to make a bigger vehicle than this map can support, but whatever, I'm just going to keep at it. Your engines need to have fuel, and you can find fuel in the fuel tab. I recommend liquid fuel for your diesel engines, obviously. This should supply you quite nicely. Other than that, you will also need some cooling. Since I'm going to create a tank, I think maybe an exhaust pipe will be in order, or just a cooling module, which is quite efficient. Or a funnel, although for a tank I don't think it's very fit. I'll just go for an rear exhaust pipe and we'll see how it works for our ship, vessel, tank, whatever. Finally, obviously you will also need a number of other things. You'll need detection so that you can spot the enemies from afar. Basically, the larger vehicle is, the easier it is to spot, but having proper detection will allow you to see and identify enemy ships from further away. There are also other things I should think about, for instance, land propellers. As you can see, we have tracks, we have wheels, we have many types of tracks and wheels, but also have some more exotic things, and I think I know what kind of vehicle I want to create. I want to create a hovercraft. As you can see, we do have a hover module, and this will allow me to create a hover tank, and that's what I'm going to go for with this build. It means that my tank cannot be very, well, tanky. It has to be light enough for my hover modules to support it, but I believe it's going to be alright. And it should work quite well on a map like this. There are also mechanical legs, including mechanical spider legs. There are even sails if you feel really old-fashioned. So really, there's a lot of ways you can propel your vehicles. You can create airships, blimps, or even proper actual airplanes, although airplanes are the most tricky to control and design properly. If you are wondering how to create a functioning airship, I showcased that on my previous livestream, and you can watch the rerun of the previous livestream on our YouTube channel for Image Power Studios on, well, YouTube. So I recommend you check this out, as well as check out our games, obviously. Nevertheless, other than those things I mentioned, we'll also need some guns, but I'll figure out what kind of guns I want later down the line. Rest assured that there's a number of various fun guns. There are also some manipulators, so if you want to have parts of the ship that can be moved on hinges that are rotated, that are connected via pistons or ball joints, all of this is possible. I myself am not an expert at setting those up, but they function, and you can have them so that, for instance, with pistons you can have turrets that hide inside your armor and then pop out of your armor. I don't quite have enough time on this live stream to showcase that, but it is there, the option is there. If you want to, you can have a piston, and then on top of that piston you can have a crew room. I don't know why you would want to have a crew room on top of your piston, but you can have that. Sure, have it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and real quick add some other missing features. So for instance, ammunition is a very important and essential part, and ammunition is volatile. Basically, like I mentioned already, all modules in this game have their independent HP, they can interact with one another, and it doesn't always have to be a nice interaction, so you have to watch out for that. Okay, I'll just add a frame for myself, those might be useful, and I'll continue and I'll start working. So this is, as I explained, my command module. It is the one I need to protect the most, if at all possible. So I'm going to go ahead and surround it with crew rooms. So since before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and change the color, first of all, of my main module. Let's go for something that's light green. I think it is going to be a decent color for the swamps, so let's go ahead and go for that. It isn't a very nice looking color in my opinion, but it's going to be good enough. Alright, let's go for this color. And I'm also going to go ahead and now place my rooms in the same color, but what's also important is that I'll enable the mirror mode, which will allow me to place, well, all of my rooms mirrored, so that I don't have to deal with pasting them everywhere. I can just have it so that when I place them on one side of the ship, they're copied to the other side of the ship. Nice and easy. Give me a moment as I take a sip of my tea. Now that I have surrounded my command module with crew compartments, I'm going to go ahead and space out my other modules, since they're a little bit more volatile. Liquid fuel can obviously be caught on fire, which is not ideal. And the engines themselves also, again, they're prone to being caught on fire if you overstress them. Again, there is an afterburner option in this game, and you can stress your engines to a degree that they normally don't handle too well, which is offset by cooling, of course. But I still don't want my engines or my fuel to be too close to my command modules, so I'm going to have my diesel engine separated from the command module like so that there's a nice gap between them. So if they caught on fire, the fire shouldn't transfer to other more vulnerable parts of the ship. Now, usually I wouldn't put liquid fuel too close to my engines, and in this case I also don't want to do it, so instead I'm going to go ahead and create some frames. So first of all, I'll rotate this crew room, then I'll create some frames on those sides, and I'll have it so that my liquid fuel is a fair distance away and it's hidden a little bit to the back. The arrow indicates where the front of the vehicle is, and I'm going to have it so that, sure, my engine at the front might be destroyed, but my engine at the back and the fuel cells should be okay. Finally, the ammo is the issue, so I'm going to take and use the frames to have it so that my ammo is as far away from my ship, the rest of my ship, as possible, and I'll even separate the ammo modules away from each other as well, so that it lowers the chance of them blowing each other up. Ammo is very dangerous. If somebody destroys your ammo block, well, it will cause a massive explosion and it will destroy all of the adjacent blocks. Or even further blocks that are not directly adjacent to your ammo blocks. It of course depends on the size of your ammo block and other aspects such as this one. Nevertheless, I believe that this is spaced out enough. Now, on the left side, in a panel that I could hide, but I would rather see it, I can see the stats of my ship. As you can see, I have more power than necessary. That's because I am not currently having any means of propulsion on my tank, or rather hovercraft, as it's going to be. I have way more than necessary crew than necessary, but that is because crew will be necessary to operate my guns as well. I have plenty of fuel. It gives me a bit of a backup, more than I need. I don't have to have that much, but it's fine. And as for my max heat and cooling, well, I don't have almost any cooling at all, so I'll need to deal with that later down the line. Excuse me as I drink some more tea. It is my second live stream of the day, so my throat is a little bit parched. In the meantime, I encourage you to check out Dieselpunk Wars on our Steam store page. It just went live on Steam today, and we're very excited to have it. And if you have any questions about Dieselpunk Wars, feel free to ask me them down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer any questions for you. And if you are still on the fence whether or not you want to buy this game, even though you're watching the live stream, I encourage you, of course, to keep watching the live stream and also potentially check out Dieselpunk Wars Prologue, which is a free version of Dieselpunk Wars. It is also live on Steam. It has limited features. It has less than half of the modules available in the full release version. It only has one map and one game mode, but it will give you a taste of what it is like to create magnificent machines. Although, only in the main game, such as the one I'm playing right now, you'll find those massive engines, such as huge Dieselpunk engines, and other massive or interesting or more sci-fi modules that are not available in the free version. So I do encourage you to check it out. Alright, so my vehicle has all it needs in terms of raw stats. Now I would like to arm it somewhat. Should be easy enough. I'm going to go ahead and now select some of the weapon. I can have on the ship. I'll start by choosing big guns, so we can have truly massive turrets, things that truly defy all categories and could be as big as my ship is entirely, or even bigger than that. As you can see right now, I'm just going to disable the mirror mode. As you can see right now, this single gun is basically bigger than my entire ship. So as such, it's probably a little bit too big for my liking. That quadra-barreled guns as well. There's a lot of different guns you could choose. But right now what I'm going to go for is... well, I should probably explain how the guns work in this game, more or less. So there are different types of weapons. There are anti-air guns, which you can actually find over here. Ooh, there are also other things exciting. There are high explosive guns, and obviously they're especially good at destroying lightly armored targets because they have a very high explosive yield that destroys things in a large area. You have armor-piercing guns that fire armor-piercing rounds that are good against firing through even the heaviest armored vessels. And you have other weird weapons such as gravity manipulators, for instance, and also, well, Gatling guns, because hey, why not? In fact, I think I will install a Gatling gun on this vessel. It sounds like it would be a very fun time, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right away, so that I know that there is, so that they keep a space reserved for one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and put a cube, because I do want my Gatling gun to be a little bit higher. Maybe not. I'll think about it. Nevertheless, as you can see, Gatling guns, they are quite magnificent. I will keep it probably a little bit higher than that, however, because I do want to keep my command module as protected as humanly possible, like I mentioned already. In fact, let us go ahead and prepare for it right now. I'm going to add some more cubes, just so that I can properly protect, elevate my gun and protect my command modules. So, as you can see, I can rotate my parts without any difficulty. And then I can place them down in any way I see fit. And now, this is a nice location for a minigun to be installed, although I would hardly call it a minigun, it's way more of a maxi gun, honestly. Now, this one cannot turn. There is a version that can turn, but I still wondered where it is. It's going to be quite fantastic. In fact, maybe I want it to be a little bit higher than it currently is. I think it would be a fantastic idea. Although then again, if that was the case, it would have a hard time firing. So maybe I just want it to be at the front of my vehicle, like so. And the reason why I'm thinking about this particular approach is because then I could simply have... oops, sorry, misclicked. Another turret on top of here. Or maybe behind this area. Yeah, I'll keep this area free. I'll maybe install some anti-air weapons at the top of it, and then I'll install some other turrets. So let's go again back into the big guns. And speaking of anti-air, who needs anti-air when you have quadruple turrets, such as this one? I believe it will be a weapon of mass destruction, and it should fit me it should fit my needs quite nicely. So add it over here. Oops, I'll re-enable the mirror mode, however, first. I forgot I have it turned off. And this gun should, those guns will tear apart anything that is in my way. You know what? This is already a very competent vehicle. It will burn through ammo exceptionally, extremely fast. But I want just one more turret in the back to protect me in case, you know, in case any protection. So I already have a high explosive yield gun, and I also have, let's have a quick look, a minigun which is armor piercing. So I already have plenty of choice when it comes to choosing my last guns at the back. I think I'll go for something smaller. Let's go for double turrets. And I'll install them near my actual ammo compartments. So yes, these turrets are now prone to being destroyed, but hopefully they'll be fine. Alright, this vehicle already looks ridiculously dangerous, and I believe it could level up entire cities by itself, even though it cannot move and it doesn't have any armor. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. Where should we start? Well, first of all, we need to figure out how this vessel is going to move around. That's always a very important part of anything. And since I already mentioned that it is going to use hovercraft, it is going to be a hovercraft, I'm just going to go ahead and add the hover modules as well as some air propellers to help it be more maneuverable. I could also go ahead and give it a bit of extra oomph when necessary by giving it the amazing, where is the movement tab, there we go, by giving it rocket boosters. They'll be quite useful, they'll do the trick, they'll allow me to move even faster than this vehicle otherwise could. I'll drink some more tea. And then I'm going to go ahead and start working on the underbelly of this beast. So I do not want this vehicle to be very heavy, because if it was, it would be very difficult for it to move. So I believe that I'll just give it a bare minimum amount of armor. So I'm going to now set up the armor I need for this hovercraft. So I'm going to go into hull and I'm going to add some cubes, long cubes and the salt and the like to my hotbar, so I have them all right where I need them. That's not what I wanted. I wanted a cube and also this kind of flat cube, and yeah, this should be fairly good. Then I'll add some slopes. I know I will need them. Nicely done. All right. So now that I have everything set up, I'm going to go ahead and start setting up the underbelly of my tank. Since I'm not expecting this tank to run into any enemies that can attack it from below it, I can set it to be the weakest material possible. Or I could just set it to be the lightest material possible, actually. Yeah, I'll set it to be the lightest material possible, and I'll lower the armor thickness to 0, so that it has as little mass as possible, so that it doesn't drag my entire vehicle down. You can control every armor block, so if you want to have a very high mass block that is difficult to penetrate, that is for instance made out of a different material, you can do that. And as you can see, there is a number of different materials. You can even use wood if you so choose, you can use glass if you're crazy, you can use brass, or you can use titanium, because titanium is fun. So all of those things are in the game and allow you to customize your vehicles to a rather ridiculous degree. Anywho, like I mentioned, I'm going to use the lightest one possible, and I'll just set it up so that my vehicle has some bare minimum protection from underneath. So I'll go ahead and start setting up my armor at the bottom, and it could protect me from mines. Yes, there are mines in this game as well. There are a number of other hazards you might run into or otherwise encounter, but you have to find out more about them on your own. Alright, this seems like a fairly decent setup. Let's go ahead and rotate this part one more time. And now we have almost everything covered from underneath of our vehicle. Now, of course, this looks kind of blocky, and like I mentioned, in this game we have a very advanced physics engine, which means that things like air drag are taken into account, which means that if any projectiles impact my ship, they might bounce off if they impact at the proper angle. So I don't want my vehicle to be blocky, I need it to be angled, so I'm definitely going to work on that right now. First of all, I don't really need these modules anymore. Instead, I'm going to go for something else later down the line. So I'll start by allowing my ship to actually properly hover. I'll add a lot of hover modules. Now, of course, in the campaign mode, there is a limit to how many modules you can have on your ship at any given time. But we're in creative mode. You can do whatever you want in the creative mode, and it's all going to be fine. So it should be okay. And now I'm going to make a real quick test if my vehicle actually hovers above the ground. It looks like it does. Wonderful. It's a little bit unstable, but that's because we don't really have a way of controlling it just yet. We're going to work on that. But it does remind me that I definitely need to add some gyroscopes to make it so that my vehicle is actually a little bit more stable. So let's go to movement and let's select gyroscope, and I'll install a few gyroscopes. Maybe around here on the sides is a good place. I could also add them on the front or the back of the vehicle. And you know what? I'll add one to the back of the vehicle, and this should help with keeping my vehicle as steady as possible. In fact, I might even create... That was a bad idea, let's undo this. We have enough gyroscopes for now, they will help me keep my vehicle steady, regardless of the terrain we're on. Since this is a hovercraft, it probably doesn't need that many gyroscopes, but I felt like adding them. Alright, now since our vehicle is already hovering, we need to give it some proper armor, and then I'll give it some means of actually moving forward and backwards by the means of air propellers. So I'll start with adding the proper slopes. In this case, let us set it up so that I'll add a triple slope on this side, and then I'll add another triple slope over here, and then I'll make it so that those actually properly merge and connect with each other. And there are blocks that allow you to do just that, so don't worry about it. I'll set everything up nice and neatly for you. Oof, although this right here is a big no-no. The ammo blocks are exposed and I cannot have this happen, so what I'm going to have here is both ammo blocks will be covered by long cubes, like this, and only then I'll have my armor blocks actually go down, so like this. And also from the back, I know it doesn't really look nice, but I certainly do want to make sure that it's difficult to hit my ammo blocks, because if they're destroyed, well, my vehicle is maybe not necessarily destroyed because of the way I build it, but it might not be long for this world anyway. Alright, so without further ado, let's continue making this ship, and I think I'm going to change the approach of this vehicle now that I see the shape it's taking. So I'm going to go ahead and add some slopes over here on the underbelly of this vehicle, like so, nice and easy, without any problems. We now have a properly sloped area where the enemy will have a very hard time hitting us, and that's exactly what I was going for. Then we can have one bit where our blocks are actually a little bit more straightforward. So if the enemy does impact us, hit us from the side, and he impacts this particular area, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, but I think it's going to be fine. And let's not overstress things all that much, shall we? So like this, and over here I also want to have a proper protection like that. Alright, now since I want to create proper slopes, this area doesn't really need to be aerodynamic because it's already covered from the air, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to create a connection like this. And now I realize that, oh, my fuel tank is actually exposed, which is not ideal, but again, I can fix that issue by using more blocks, different types of blocks, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and use a long slope, I believe, for this one. And this is exactly not the way I wanted it to be set up. So by pressing Q on my keyboard, I can rotate my parts nice and easy so that they are more along the lines of what I want to have, and this doesn't really look good. Looks a little bit better, although I don't like the way that it's shaped over in this area all that much. So you know what, we're going to scrap this idea, we're going to go back to a slope. I'll rotate it the way I rotated the other thing. Add one more cube over here to protect the fuel module, and add another slope, and then rotate it so that we have a nice kind of wedge-like thing in here. I don't know what this shape accomplishes, it is very weird, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose. Alright, now over here we could go for something a little bit different. I'm going to go for a longer slope. So, in fact, I could go for a very long slope or super long slope, and that's exactly what I'm going to go for. Super might be too long. Let's go for a very long slope, which is basically 1 by 3 tiles long. Like this. It's going to be kinda-ish aerodynamic. Aerodynamic enough is the phrase I would use here. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'll go ahead and add another one over here, although that doesn't connect really, yeah, because it doesn't connect with the other side of this ammo. That's fine, I can just go ahead and go back over here. I needed to add the cube here anyway. And now connect this thing without any further issues, so... Like this, it's now a little bit too long, so let's go ahead and use a long slope instead. There we go. And now I'm going to have it so that the front of this hovercraft is going to be a little bit more aerodynamic. It's going to be a little bit tough to do. To do well, that is. It's going to be actually fairly tough to do well, but I'll do my best. Okay, let's go ahead and install cube 3. Just like this. Now, actually, we need a cube 2. That's going to be way better. And a proper cube at the front. It's going to protect us from forward shots as well. And now I want this area to be a little bit more sloped, just, you know, for some extra protection against enemy attacks. And you know what? I could add here a drill as a close combat weapon, so that if anybody comes close to me... Actually, this looks kind of fun. If anybody comes close to me, well, they'll be impacted on top of this. Maybe not this particular weapon. Let's go for a drill. The drill is ridiculous and I love it. Alright, now this is going to be a nice hovercraft. I do hope it's not going to be too heavy. We're going to find that out momentarily. Alright, so this is the front of the ship. And I'll just give it the basic minimum amount of protection. I mean, I'll give it enough protection, but I also give it some space so that if enemy attacks impact my ship, they will not have an easy time penetrating all the way to my back end. Instead, they should, instead the explosion should be lessened by the fact that there are air pockets within my hovercraft. That is my theory at any rate. I am yet to see if that is going to be exactly the case. So let's go for long triangle, and I'll need very long triangle as well. There we go. And I'll add them beneath my ship. Nicely done. I'll add them here again. No, for this one it just needs to be a long triangle. Not a problem. And over here again I could use a long triangle, so I'm going to rotate it. Oops, and I misclicked quite badly, which caused some issues. Alright, don't worry about it, I can fix it. And of course, like I mentioned, first of all, I'm not playing the release version of my game, even though it's called 1.0. It's actually from a secret developer build, so it might be a little bit different from what you have. But if you do encounter any bugs or any balance changes you would like us to address, please do let us know on the Steam forum or on our Discord server or anywhere else. We're really looking forward to working with our community to make this game amazing. We don't want it to be just good, we want it to be great. And I do believe it can be, with the proper support, and we're definitely going to give it as much support as is needed and as is necessary. Alright, now my vehicle is somewhat covered. I just need to add a little bit more slopes, so this is where the inverse triangles come into place, so I'm going to go ahead and add them. Long inverse triangles and very long inverse triangle should be somewhere. There we go, very long inverse triangle, aluminum. And that is not the way I wanted to place it, so let's go ahead and rotate that slightly. And as you can see, it now fits nicely. And I forgot to enable the mirror mode, so you cannot see it on the other side. Easy to fix. Now we can see it on both sides, and I'll do the same with a long inverse triangle. So let's go ahead and put it over here. Obviously, I need to rotate it, which is something I forgot about. Oof, this doesn't look very nice, does it? Oh well, it's the underbelly of our ship. Nobody's going to see that, right? It's going to be fine. Okay, let's go ahead and in that case continue building our ship. We're going to add the cube. At the front we're going to add the cubes on the side as well, or rather at the front, not on the side. And also we're going to make sure that this area is properly protected with some proper slopes. So I'll add a few white slopes, nice and easy. And also a regular slope as well. Oops. It does need to be rotated though. Not a big problem. Assuming I can actually place it correctly. There we go, now it's placed correctly and it should be wonderful. Okay, so again, there's a bit of a wedge in our design. It's probably not ideal. And I could make it a bit more ideal, especially since we're actually going to be looking at the back side of our vehicle a lot, since it is a game from a third-person perspective. So I'm going to fix that real quick. I'll add a triangle. And it's going to look a little bit better. There we go. Still not perfect. And I am definitely a perfectionist, so I'm going to add a quad triangle and see if that is going to help. I need to rotate it a bit more, I believe. Yeah, now it should be good. Like this. And also on the other side. There we go. Alright, so now this is maybe not the most aerodynamic hovercraft tank ever, but it should do quite nicely. Just so that I don't lose my save file, let's call it... Alright, my previous game ship that I created when the game launched on Steam was called Final Hour. So this is going to be... First Hour? Sure, it's not a very good name and I will admit it, but it's a name that is good enough. Obviously, as you could see from the save vehicle screen, you can publish your vehicles to the Steam Workshop, and you can also download any vehicles from the Steam Workshop and use them in your game as you see fit. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to exchange your creations with other community members in any way you like. I'll drink some tea. In the meantime, feel free to take a look at our Steam store page for Dieselpunk Wars, which was just released today in early access, and we're going to continue supporting it with its different types of balance changes and bug fixes, and of course the up-and-coming Endless mode, which is going to be our first major update, and it shouldn't take long for it to come out either. Of course, the game is mostly complete. There are only final things to be tweaked out that we need the help of the community to fix. Tea is delicious, by the way, in case you're wondering. Alright, I do want to move my gun a little bit forward. I believe it shouldn't be that far in the back, since now my vehicle is a little bit more front heavy. In fact, I could have it all the way here. It is a bit exposed now, sure, and it doesn't look quite as pretty, so I'll move it slightly to the side. But it should be good enough. Now I'm going to go ahead and add some more aerodynamic armor, just like I did for the bottom section of the ship. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with the long triangles. As you can see, rotating those isn't actually all that difficult. And I basically have to repeat what I did. Alright, these ones do need to be rotated differently because I moved them and forgot about it. Nevertheless, I'm basically repeating what I already did for this vehicle, so it's not that difficult. Long slope, again, should be easy to deal with. And again, I'm rotating all my things using the Q button on my keyboard. And am I not using mirror mode? No, I am not. Oops, let's undo that. Alright, well, I messed up a little bit, but I can fix it now, so it's all going to be fine. First of all, I'll add the parts that I already know where they belong, so I'll fix the ship real quick. You won't even notice that I broke it in the first place. Wonderful. Now I'll add a bit more of our white slopes, so over here. Obviously I need to rotate them after I created the underbelly of our ship. I'll do the same over here. And now our ship should be quite aerodynamic. And also, as a result, quite resistant to enemy fire, which is what this is all about, after all. Right, I don't necessarily like the way this went, but we'll deal with that, I suppose. Now, it really bothers me, actually. Let's delete this block. Let's add this block, and then we will deal with it later down the line. And this block could also be a slope instead of being this kind of awkward square, but let's not waste any time on fixing that. But I could waste time on fixing that, and you're not gonna stop me. Alright, so let's go ahead and make it so that this block is a little bit more aerodynamic, and so that my ship will have a little bit of an easier time when it tries to turn. I'm going to go ahead and reach for the triangles again. And that was the wrong way to position them. That is fine, however. And now this part of the ship is fairly aerodynamic. Now, what did I do with this part? I think I misclicked. I didn't mean to create this part. I'll now install some more armor from the back so that if anybody attacks me, I'll be well defended. So, long cube over here and also over here. I'm a little bit worried because my ammo blocks are fairly exposed from the back. So I might add something extra here just so that they have a little bit more protection. But we'll see if I do end up doing just that. Now, finally, I'm going to use some inverse triangles so that my vehicle is as aerodynamic as possible. Of course, being aerodynamic from the back, not the most important thing ever, but it does fill me with satisfaction. Also, I already mentioned that there is such a feature in this game as being able to detect the enemy vessels. Indeed, there are spotting mechanics, and you need to be able to see the enemy, including enemies that are behind your ship. So I'm going to go ahead and add one viewport at the back of my ship so that it's easier for me to see if anybody is trying anything funky behind me. I'm going to do the same on the side of my ship so that I can see if anybody is sneaking out in this around the side. As for the front of my ship, this doesn't really look nice, does it? But I could install a spotting module over here. No, that's not gonna look nice either. I'll think about the front. I'm sure I can figure out something. Meanwhile, I'm going to continue placing more slopes. So, just like this, and some more slopes over here, and I'm going to go ahead and add a triangle right over here too. I don't need it to be a triangle though. I can have it so that it is a long triangle. It's going to be slightly more efficient, you see, so let's go ahead and do just that. And I also install it on the other side of the ship because I'm lazy. No, never mind, I'm going to install it on the same side of the ship it's supposed to be on. Wait a second. These are two slopes, that's why the slopes worked so well for me before. I see, okay, never mind then. Let's add the triangle modules. Let's rotate them so that they fit everything nicely. Let's add the inverse triangle modules as well. And I don't even need to rotate them this time around. Nicely done. And as for this area, you know what? I'm feeling lazy. I'm just going to give it some basic protection of just long cubes. So I'll do that. There we go, this should be still quite well defended against enemy fire, and my ship is starting to take shape. I like what I see, except for the color. The color I know is awful, but such is the way of things sometimes. I'll try to handle it if at all possible, as I take another sip of my tea. And now my tea is officially out, so I won't be able to drink any more tea, so when I'm too parched, I'll take a quick break and get something more to drink for myself. So there will be that. Alright, let's continue our process of creating a new ship. As you can see, I left some holes in my ship. I can leave them. Again, if anybody fires at my ship and pierces through the outer layers of armor, then this is a pocket of air it won't have to have because it will deal with high explosive yields. As for armor-piercing missiles, yeah, they're a bit more of a problem, but again, I need my ship to be light. I don't mind it having those kind of random pockets of emptiness. It should be fine by all accounts. Alright, let's now go for the long inverse triangle. Now I need a very long inverse triangle and I need to rotate it as well. And not like that. Not like that either, although it's getting there. Okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm not rotating it on the proper axis, so this should now be perfect. And it is. How nice when what you want to do comes into fruition and it works just fine. Okay, so I need this area to remain flat so that my turrets can fire without any issues. The quadruple barrel turrets, which are absolutely ridiculous, but they fit the Dieselpunk setting just fine, don't they? Alright, and I'll have a longer cube over here. It's not technically speaking a cube, I know, but that is how we named it, and I didn't need to have anything on the bottom. There can be an empty space over there. Right, now I covered the front side of my ship, and my turrets should have a very nice cone of fire. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and add some frames, and on top of these frames I'm going to build the rest of my armor. Basically, I do want to have layered armor so that I'm a bit more protected from enemy bombers. Bombers are still going to be exceptionally difficult for me to deal with, since you know, bombers are designed to handle with tanks and whatnot. But with my magnificent anti-air capabilities, I believe that everything should be more or less fine. So now that this is over, I'm going to take a quick look at this area. Does it also need the extra supports? Might not, actually, it might not. We will see as we go. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and go back to over here to where I put my long slopes. And I'll go ahead and use them to ensure that my vehicle is a little bit better defended. However, what I'm worried about is that I've been creating this vehicle for quite a while, and it's been some time since I let you see any awesome explosions, hasn't it? So I'm going to pause creating this vehicle for now. I'm going to save it. I'm going to check it if it can still hover. It might be too heavy already. No, it still hovers quite nicely. Obviously I cannot move it because I didn't add any proper propellers, but it hovers quite nicely. And I'm going to go ahead and now change the game mode so that I can showcase the game to the new arriving players. Since the game isn't just about creating awesome vehicles, it's also about seeing how they fight against one another. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase that using one of the more powerful vehicles, that being the Sea Monster. And it is actually an amphibious vehicle as well, so I can just go ahead and use it in the swampland without much of an issue. And as you can see, since we're in the creative mode, I can spawn enemies for me to fight literally on top of myself in this case. That shouldn't normally happen, but again, issues can sometimes be encountered. And as you can see, we have a large number of vessels all trying to blow me up and actually doing a stellar job at it as well. So yeah, I probably spawned a few too many enemies for me to handle, and I'll now be promptly dispatched before I can showcase proper fighting. Which is fine because I wanted to show you some other game modes as well. I'll now go back to the menu, and for everybody who's a newcomer, I'm going to go ahead and show the Battle Simulator mode, which is one of the new modes added with the full release of Dieselpunk Wars. By full release, I do mean early access release, but it is as opposed to the Dieselpunk Wars Prologue release, which is a free game you can play if you want to have a little taste of what it is like to be playing Dieselpunk Wars. And there's a helicopter outside my window, how fitting. Alright, let's go into Battle Simulator real quick. I'm going to this time showcase islands. It's been a while since I was on the island map. And as we wait for the map to load, give me a second, I'll grab a drink. Don't go anywhere. Alright, I have returned and we're back with our game, and as you can see I'm now in the Battle Simulator mode, which a lot of our playtesters like the most actually. And I can understand why. It's a mode where it's very easy for you to see how large battles can be played out between different types of ships in different scenarios. So in this case I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can set up a nice naval battle. So first of all, there is the MFP Spartan, a ship created by one of our Kickstarter backers, I believe, and a ship that actually won a community challenge to be put into the game. As you can see, it is truly massive, and it won a challenge themed around pirates, obviously. It might be a little bit too much, since it is a truly massive ship, and I wanted to showcase something different with many ships fighting with each other. So let's... Now you know what, let's do it. Alright, MFP Spartan, and I'll show you just how quickly you can dispatch something else. So first, let's just go ahead and spawn a Sea Monster. A Sea Monster is, in my opinion, a very powerful vehicle. I'll change its theme real easy. Over here, I'll spawn it at the most optimal location, behind the MFP Spartan, and we'll see if it even stands a chance. I might as well also spawn a miniature airship bomber, which might have what it takes to actually finish the enemy off if it drops a few bombs. Although I personally believe that the MFP Spartan is still going to absolutely destroy the enemy. So as you can see, in this mode, you can easily explore the battle, and keep in mind, if you see any instability, that's because I am currently live streaming, and it's, you know, a little bit difficult to live stream and play the game at the same time. That being said, if you see instability in game, do let us know so that we can fix it, of course. But yeah, as I expected, the MFP Spartan dispatches both enemies with ease. So this wasn't really a fair fight. The miniature airship bomber is being taken care of, and now the Sea Monster is really not much of a Sea Monster, it's just a small sea fishy. It seems like the Spartan has a bit of a hard time hitting the critical components though, since the Sea Monster still hasn't blown up, and it's still actually firing back at the Spartan, but nevertheless, it's a battle that's doomed to only end in one way. There are only 3 guns left for the Sea Monster, and the Spartan is still firing, and there we go. That's the end of this fight. Alright, let's go ahead and reset everything properly. And I'm going to now change the way it fights. Now there is basically nothing in the game that can compete against Spartan, other than maybe, for instance, Eutychus Flexus, which is a ridiculously overpowered ship, which also can't move at all. I created it a long time ago when the game was still, I would say, in its infancy. So let's not do that. Instead, we're going to make it into a sensible battle, with blue controlling, let's say, 3 ships. And as you can see, I don't actually need to set up if those ships are airships, or if they're regular ships, or if they're land vessels. The game can now actually read from the save file and check if it is an airship or a different kind of ship, which is quite handful. As you might imagine, you don't have to set it up yourself anymore. Alright, I'm now going to go ahead and set something up for the red team to fight against the blue team. So a turtle tank is going to be a nice idea. Something else that looks red. Oh, a ship of the line. It is, after all, a ship naval battle. So let's go ahead and use that. As you can see, it is a very powerful ship. And the reds still don't have an advantage, actually. So I could give them one more ship to kind of even the odds. Maybe something flying. Drone ship, maybe. Desert Piranha. Maybe, but nah, I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I'm not feeling like it. I could add some other ships, but you know what? I think I'll just give them another miniature airship, and I'll see which team makes a better use out of their miniature airships. Alright, the battle has been set, I can now commence it, and the cool thing is, I can also take control of any ships I desire. So if I select the Sea Monster, I can now control the Sea Monster. I can swim around, I can back out if I so desire, I can rotate, I can fire on whoever I want, I can fire on my friend even, if I wanted to make it into a more one-sided battle. Sure, let's go ahead and help my enemies. And then I could go ahead and go back to free camera and see how the battle continues now that I lost my control over the battlefield and the AI is battling it, duking it out by themselves. As you can see, one of the ships moved real far away. Now what I didn't do... Oh, I know what happened. The ship is torn in half, and I believe that its armor supplies were blown up, and the sheer force of explosion forced it to land ashore, but it was able to go back into the water, so at the very least that happened. Meanwhile, over here, as you can see, an intense airfight is commencing, but the red team is clearly losing. The blue team still has all 3 ships operational, while the red team, now it's about to be destroyed. So yeah, again, this is one of the free game modes that is currently available in the game. And as our next major update, we're going to add the Endless mode, where you get to fight against increasingly powerful waves of enemies, while also yourself making increasingly more powerful ship. Alright, it looks like at the very least Red Team was able to destroy one of the Blue Team's ships, so small victories. And you know what, this ship is still fighting. But I believe it's time to end its misery. It clearly... yeah, that's the end of it. Hey, it still swims, it's still floating around. Wow. It does have wood, it is partially made of wood and aluminum, so it's very light actually. It's a wonder that it can float. But yeah, it cannot even fire back, and as soon as its critical components are destroyed... wait, it still fires! It is ridiculous, but yeah, there we go. It's no more. So yeah, battle simulation, pretty fun if you just want to see large battles. Of course, if you want to have stupid fun in the creative mode, you can do that as well. I'll go back to the racetrack, which we were on just moments ago. And I'll pour myself something to drink. Ooh, that's better. That is way better. Alright. So obviously, if you want to have stupid fun as quickly as possible, you can load into any vehicle you want. You can press F2 and another vehicle will spawn for you to destroy. In this case, it's the suicidal drifting cutie. I like this ship, it's a good target practice, it's surprisingly well armored, but I guarantee it will never do anything bad to you, because it's just really bad. I mean, it has exposed ammo blocks, and as you can see, I was able to shoot them down and destroy them, but still, drifting cutie is a cutie, and I'll defend it to my core. Hey! And there's another ship which is exactly... no, it's a different ship, it's not the same thing that I'm currently in, is it? My apologies. I had to cough, so I muted myself for a second. But it looks like this ship is stuck for some reason. Well, I spawned a different ship because I could override the spawn. And it seems like I unstuck the other ship as well, so as you can see now, there are more ships. And if you just want to have stupid fun in the creative mode, you can really quickly spawn as many ships as you want, and then see how well you do at fighting them. I can also try to ram this enemy steamer. I do have a very fast ship with pointy edges, maybe I'll do okay. Well, I would have done okay, if not for the fact that the enemy blew up before I could properly ram them. But that's enough blowing up for now. I did promise to finish creating my vehicle, so let's go ahead and do that. We're now in a completely different location on our map, but that is fine. It's still not a bad location to build our ship. I'll move slightly to the side maybe. Just so that there's some more water, since after all, we do want to create a hovercraft. So let's go to, maybe over here is a nice place. Yeah, let's go over here. So let's load back the vehicle we've been working on. The first hour, let's grab it real quick. And there are only minor adjustments to be made for this particular vehicle, and then it should be quite functional and capable of destroying even the fiercest enemies. So we're going to go ahead and first of all go back to where the triangle is. I now need to get my mind back into the mind of a builder, and I don't want to use a triangle, and I do want to use a different color. And I do want to use aluminum. So let's go ahead and choose a different block. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose the quad triangle. So it's... oh, I didn't enable mirror mode. That's fine. That's fine. I'll enable it now, so I'll be able to mirror everything I create. And here I'll add the spotting module for the front side of my ship. I didn't click it, did I? For the front of my ship. No, I won't, because it is, the game is smart. It knows that I'm cheating, because the spotting module would be obscured, so I cannot actually properly place it over there. That is fine. I'm not going to cheat then. I'm going to add spotting module somewhere on the top. Alright, I'm going to now go ahead and maybe add some more cubes over here, nice and easy. And then extend this a little bit further. Let me see what would be the most optimal way of doing things. I could add a long cube over here, and that's already quite nice and stable. And then I could add 2 long cubes behind the turrets. And then I want this area to be a bit more interesting than just a flat area, also a bit more defensible and a bit more aerodynamic and less prone to enemy attacks. So I'm going to go ahead and extend the slope. Maybe a wide slope 3 will be enough. Let's have a quick look. It will be definitely too long. Wide slope times 2 is more than enough for this case, and then I'll just go ahead and add my triangle blocks, nice and easy. And then to finish it off, just a good old slope and also a long cube over here. Again, I know it's not technically speaking a long cube, but the name works, it's stuck, it's going to be there. Now at this top location I can add some extra things. For instance, I can add more spotting modules, which I didn't have space for the front of the ship, and I'm definitely going to make good use of that. So I'm going to go to detection and add view sphere, which is going to increase my spotting radius from all sides of the ship. Quite useful, really. Quite useful indeed. So right now it's going to be ironic, since my ship is going to see the least from the front and the most from the sides. But I don't believe this to be a particularly big bad problem. Finally, I want some way to vent the heat, because my vehicle is going to generate a lot of heat, not only because of the afterburners, which I actually didn't place. So let's go ahead and include an afterburner somewhere here. I'll first of all add a cube block somewhere in the back, so over there, protecting the gyroscope. And now I can add the rocket module, just so that my ship can be a little bit faster. And now what I can also do, and that's the cool thing, is that I can cover it up with a nice armor plate. So it's not as good as proper armor, but in this case, when you want things to be aerodynamic, it's going to work well enough. So that if somebody attacks this engine from the top, it's still going to be somewhat covered. Now my ship is going to generate a lot of heat both from the rocket engine and from the minigun. So for that reason I definitely do want to have some proper way to disperse heat. And I believe I'm going to add exhaust pipes at the back of my ship. Although I could also do it on the side of the ship. Why not, actually? Why not? There's no reason not to do that. I'll have them on the front, and that seems like a bag for it to be placed in such a reverse way. Again, issues may sometimes be found. This is early access after all, and not every combination can always be easily tested without the input of the community, and this was an edge case scenario I apparently discovered as the first player ever. So yeah. Anywho, if you do spot any bugs, please let us know, and we'll work on fixing them as quickly as humanly possible, because we want our game to be as great as it can be. Alright, this vehicle already looks pretty great. Does it need anything else? Well, it doesn't technically speaking need much else except for one thing, and that is propulsion. I have added one rocket engine, but rocket engine is just for boosting. So now I'm going to check the center of mass and the center of lift. They're all at the same on the same height, which is good. Not necessarily in the same area, which is less good, but I can work around that. So now I'm going to need to add some proper propellers. See what I did there? So I'll make it so that they're actually hidden. I didn't enable the mirror mode, which is a bit annoying. Oh well, I'm going to keep it off for now and turn it back on. So I'll now add some proper air propellers, so I can move my hovercraft around. The reason why I'm using air propellers is because, well, it is a hovercraft. I cannot really use anything like tracks, wheels, or mechanical legs. I mean, I could, but that would defeat the point of it being a hovercraft, wouldn't it? I'm also going to go ahead and add more propellers. The question is, where would be a good spot for them to be without me compromising the integrity of this vehicle? I don't really have a very plausible spot. I could add it over here, but that exposes the ammo block somewhat, and I'm not sure if I'm okay with that idea necessarily. So, you know what? Some risks have to be taken, however. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another cube block over there, on both sides actually, and over here as well, and then I'm going to add the extra air propellers. So 4 air propellers, this vehicle should be quite fast actually, especially with the ability to boost a little bit harder with the rocket engine. It does look a little bit uglier now as well from the back, and this area is probably prone to being destroyed. But nevertheless, that's what I'm going to go for. I think it should work well enough. I will also need side propellers to help me turn around, so I need to figure out where I want to place those things. You know what? I could get rid of this rocket engine, but I really don't want to, so instead I'm going to place my side propellers at the top of my vehicle. Over here, maybe. No, I don't like this idea. I don't like it at all. I don't want to expose my vehicle too much. I'll place them over here. They will look a little bit out of place, maybe, but they will help me turn quite nicely. And I'll add one more at the very front of the vehicle. Sure, it will most likely be destroyed, but it should help me turn quite well. I still have a lot of power to spare, as you can see. I'm only using 780 power out of 1000. So I could add even more engines, but I don't believe it to be quite necessary at this point in time. In fact, I will add one more, since I found another decent spot for an air propeller. Or what I could do instead... Nah, it's going to be good enough. I'm going to leave it as it is. Excellent. So now my vehicle is armed and it should be able to move. So let's go ahead and save it and check if it indeed has what it takes to be a proper functioning vehicle. So exit build mode, and how well does it work? Can it move around? It can. It seems like it's rather heavy and it has a hard time moving around. I think I will need to add more hover modules perhaps. It seems like, yeah, as you can see, I am actually in the water. My hover modules are not strong enough to properly lift me up. So that is why my vehicle is behaving a little bit clunky. That is fine though, I cannot fix all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and repair my vehicle, because I may have scratched it a little bit, and then add some more hover modules underneath the vehicle. So now it should have quite a bit of hover power. I could just literally fill the entire underbelly of this vehicle with hover modules. That feels a little bit like an overkill, and I don't want to do that. But let's see how well it's going to float now. It doesn't do so well in water. What about on dry land? It might do it better. It might actually perform better on dry land. I'll just move my camera so I can see a little bit better. I'll move slightly, and let's see. Am I actually hovering? I kinda am. Alright, so I am having some problems with the way the vehicle behaves in the water. But other than that, I'm doing okay. Okay. I'm doing somewhat okay. It's very difficult to steer this vehicle, you see. And I'm bumping into trees left, right, and center. And I'm also getting hit very, very fast, and I kinda got stuck. No worries. Every great design has its flaws, and my design apparently has a lot of flaws. But it is still something I can work around, hopefully. So, alright. So far, it seems like a somewhat functioning vehicle. What I noticed is that it does need to have some... Let's give it some rudders. I know that this isn't an airplane, but rudders might actually help it quite a decent amount. So, I'll add them behind my turrets, in front of my larger turret, and also in the middle here. I'm not an aeronautics expert. I don't think this is going to work very well for my ship, but it might help me turn, even if it's just a little bit. So I'm going to give it a try. Alright, with that out of the way, now that we have confirmed that my vehicle can in fact move around and probably can fire, let's actually test that. How well can it fire? It can fire just fine, and as you can see, it is heating up just fine as well. I probably will need to do something with the heat generation if at all possible. Alright, let's repair the ship in case it suffered any damage. As you can see, the heat effect stayed because when I entered the build mode, the game pauses. That's fine. Alright, so anything else I need to do? Well, I can take a quick look at individual modules. So some of the modules, not the largest ones, can be set to auto-fire on enemy vessels. Obviously, I mostly have large modules, but I do have two smaller ones in the back, which are going to help me if some enemy attacks me from behind, or if there's an airship that needs to be shot down. Those two weapons will take care of that, hopefully. Alright, I could also make adjustments to other modules if I so desire, but I don't believe there to be anything necessarily important. I can also change groups for my weapons so that each weapon is bound to a different attack group, so that I, for instance, if I don't want to waste ammo too fast, I could disable my minigun, and now when firing you will see that wait, I didn't disable the minigun. What did I disable? Something else. Alright, now I disabled the minigun, and as you can see, even though I'm holding the left mouse button, I am not firing from my minigun, whereas now I will start firing from my minigun. Although you cannot see the explosions because they're behind the trees, but nevertheless, I am firing. Alright, so there is that thing out of the way. My vehicle is functional, it's good. The last finishing touches are obviously the cosmetics. This game does have its fair share of cosmetics, in the form of extra modules, as well as colors and obviously decals. So let's have a quick look. Are there any decorative modules I would like to add? There's quite a few of them, of course. I might want to have some golden bars just because they look fancy and I want it to be fancy, and I want my ship to be fancy. I see that there's the same issue, alright? No worries, it is going to be ironed out quickly. Again, I'm not actually using the same build as the one that you are, that is currently live on Steam. I'm using a developer build, which is hidden deeply in our vaults and archives. Nevertheless, I'm not sure if I'm digging this whole orange stripes thing, or golden bar thing. Maybe I should add something else. You know what, I'm not gonna add any extra modules. What I do want to do is paint my ship a little bit differently. Green is fine, but let's add something else as well. For instance, I could... Red? Well, it's not yet Christmas, so it's not time for red. Purple! It seems like a horrible choice of colors, and obviously I'm going to go for it just because... Oh wow, this looks so bad. This choice of colors is killing me. I went with green because I thought, okay, on a swamp map, I want my ship to be difficult to spot, right? So green is going to be hard to spot. And now I'm making it as easy to spot as it is humanly possible. Oh well. No, I can't stand it. Sorry, no, I have to change this color. It's horrible. Brown is going to be definitely better, and yeah, it's maybe not the most flashy of colors, but the purple, it just had my eyes to a ridiculous degree, and I clicked on too many modules, so there are now more modules that are brown. That's fine. Actually, you know what? It makes sense for these modules to be brown when they're in the spot where the brown stripes are. So I'm going to do that as well. The front of the ship is colored. It's not yet colored. We'll deal with that in a second. The side of the ship can also be colored, so I'll do that too. Because I was using grouped blocks, it's actually very difficult to properly color things and have cool looking stripes. Oh well, it's as good as it can be, I suppose. And ooh, I spotted a weakness in my ship design. Right here, if anybody destroys my minigun, they'll be able to shoot straight inside of my ship. Probably not ideal. Not ideal at all. I might have to deal with that in a moment. Alright, meanwhile, however, everything is coming up nicely. Let's make it so that the minigun is also brown. And this section, let's not do that. Okay. I think this ship is, for the most part, okay. I'll get rid of this rudder. I don't like it up there. You know what? Actually, no, I do want it to be up there. The rudder needs to stay. I'm going to re-add it because... No, it looks stupid. Never mind. I keep changing my mind. I know. I'm known to do those kind of things, but... you just have to deal with it, I suppose. Alright, so now that my ship is colored, it still looks a little bit hideous, but I suppose it could also be worse. I could also color the sides, but I'm not sure if I'll forgive myself if I do that. Oh well, let's try and do it anyway. So I'll color the sides nice and easy. and the propellers as well. And now my ship is mostly grey with a little bit of green. Well, that's a bit more green than I wanted to. Again, that was my misclick. But you know, stripes are cool. And I'm satisfied with going with that color choice in here. Yeah, the ship already looks a little bit more interesting. It doesn't necessarily look pretty, but it's functional and it looks alright. Finally, let's go ahead and add some decals. So, what do you want for this particular ship? Crown? Sure, let's go ahead and add a crown at the front. Maybe not a brown crown, that kind of defeats the purpose of it being visible. Red is also not exactly visible. I chose the single worst color possible for my decals to appear on. Oh well, I'll add the red crown, why not? And then what else? What else? What else? I could add... some eyes on the sides? Sure, why not? But I have a lot more options to choose from, so yeah, let's have a quick look see at some of the other decals. We have the Kickstarter decals, we have some decals created by our backers. Let's go ahead and let's add the Kickstarter decal, why not? It's a good ship, yo. I like it. In fact, I'll add it over here and make it white so that everybody that sees this ship charging at them knows that this ship is legit. Like, it's really legit. Let's go ahead and flip the decal. It's super legit. Like, you see this ship and you go like, delicious. And then the ship destroys you and crushes you, and all of your dreams come crashing down. It's really quite horrible, but at the same time, magnificent. Finally, let's go ahead and add one more decal designed, backer designed decal in the back. So let's undo the decal flip. Let's make it red. It doesn't look very nice, actually. Over here, it still doesn't look very nice, but I'm still gonna add it just because I want to showcase that, hey, yes, you can add decals in this game, and it's fun. I just have a horrible taste. That's all there is to it. Okay, this vehicle is now absolutely ready for everything. I'm going to save it for one last time, and I'm going to now take it for a spin and see how well it works. So, let's go ahead, disable the mirror mode, go back to add remove. And of course, I could spawn vehicles by pressing the F2 button, but I have specific requirements. So first of all, I'm going to create a new vehicle and choose the vehicle I want to face against. So in this case, I want to see the turtle tank, which is an amphibious tank, so it should also do quite well on the swamps. Oops. I didn't mean to create a new one straight away, but sure, I'm also going to create a flyer of some sorts. So let's say Death Cloud. Seems like a decent option. So both of those are going to be my enemies, and I will start fairly far away from them, and we'll see how well I can do when fighting against them. So both of them are going to be on the red team. Turtle tank as well. Red team it is. And finally me. Well, we'll see how well I do against those two. It should be alright. I think my ship is way more powerful than those enemies. Now the AI is fast, so they did fire the first shot. Cheaters. But I can now unleash a volley with my minigun and start heading closer to the enemy. Now I am actually very slow in the water. That is because my ship is actually touching the water and it's slowing it down, causing quite a bit of drag to be an issue. Not exactly what I wanted, but as you can see, my vehicle is still doing quite fine. It is slightly on fire because I overboosted it and I don't have enough cooling mechanisms. But hey, it seems like the enemy tank is almost no more. I'm now destroying it completely, but it's just a pitiful sight. And in fact, I'm now too close to it, so my turrets stopped being able to fire at it. So let's go ahead and move backwards a little bit so that all of my turrets can regain their firing angles and they can resume their firing. And in fact, oh wow, my ship ran out of ammo already. That was super quick. That shouldn't happen. So let's go ahead and restart. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make sure that my vehicle actually has a little bit more ammo. So, where do I put the additional ammo without compromising the integrity of the ship, without making it so that it is absolutely destroyed when something goes wrong. I don't believe there is the right answer to this. I just know that I need more ammo, so I think I'll put it in the middle, but somewhere close-ish to the back, maybe. Yeah, and I'll just add a small ammo storage, just so that I can fire for a little bit longer. It's red as well. No, it won't be red. But this should mean that I can fire for a little bit longer. Not a whole lot longer. This ship does have a ridiculous amount of firepower, which is why it runs out of firepower quite quickly as well. There's always a consequence of making this kind of magnificent ship, of course, that you have to bear in mind. Alright, and I'm definitely going to rotate that armor piece right here. Nice and easy, so that my ship is whole again. And it should be fine now. It should be able to fire for a little bit longer. Of course, these turrets, they do eat a ridiculous amount of ammo. So I still will run into the troubles of having a little ammo. But other than that, this ship should function fairly well. Let's actually go ahead and test it. Maybe on a different map. We'll see how well it performs on the desert map real quick. So quickly jump back into the main menu. Click on creative and click on the desert map. Since desert map is humongous, I want to showcase exactly how big it is as I take a sip of water. Alright, give me one more second. I'll be right with you. I'm just checking something, if everything is okay on one front, and I'll resume the demonstration process in a moment. Alright, so this is the desert map, and like I said, I wanted to test my new vehicle to see how well it performs on land. And on the desert map, there is a lot of land. It is a humongous map. It is the biggest map we currently have in the game. It's in fact even bigger than the island map you might recognize from the demo. And it's a good thing there's a lot of area that you can move around in, because this vehicle I created, this hovercraft, I really didn't make it so that it is easy to turn it. It keeps moving from the left to right. It almost sounds ridiculous, but it's almost like it's too light. It's like I'm hovering in the wind. I might actually have added too many hovercraft modules. Nevertheless, let's press F2. Let's spawn a few vehicles. Oh boy, this is not the vehicle I wanted to spawn. I have no chance against an alien mothership. So let's go ahead and enable our booster and get out of here as soon as possible. And as you can see, the enemy ships, I can no longer detect them, so they're marked by red markers. And I'm trying to get out of here, but the issue is, when I'm impacted by the enemy projectiles, they give me some extra force. They apply some extra force to my ship, which pushes me further into the direction I don't want to be pushed into. Let's get out of here. There we go, and now I should be mostly safe from those invaders. Can I get something more in my weight class? Oh yes, I can. Hello there, be destroyed. This is the weakest vehicle in the game, or at the very least in the default save files. So I'm quite satisfied with spawning there. What do we have here? Oh, that's a well-armored but otherwise fairly weak vehicle, so this should be an easy fight. Although right now I'm having a hard time aiming at it. There we go. Oof. I must have destroyed something very important on that ship. Hey, it's still there, isn't it? Oh, okay. No, it's not. Yeah, I must have hit their ammo supplies. That's why it blew up so nicely. So let's press F2 a couple more times and see if I can find more challenging enemies. As you can see, there is a steamer on the right and also a sea monster on the left. And also another enemy over there. I can see that the alien mothership is still operational. But I have weakened the steamer. Let's now see if I can do something about the sea monster, if at all possible. Oof. The firepower of the sea monster is enough to actually trip me, which is a bit problematic. Alright, let's try to get rid of its firepower. Let's start firing with all of my guns and see if that is enough to actually properly take it out. Let's zoom in with my camera. Oof. I literally cannot move forward. There's too much force applied to my to the front of my ship, and oh, most of my ship blew up. They destroyed my ammo modules. Well, that's bad. They destroyed my turrets as well, except for my back turret. So if I rotate, I should be able to... No, never mind. The back turret is gone as well. I can still move around though. I still have a drill. No, I don't have a drill either. I'm now being completely destroyed. Still, I'm quite happy with my design. It's a very enjoyable design. It floats around a little bit too much to my liking. It's hard to control, but it's still quite functional. So let's go ahead and restart and show you maybe a little bit of a bigger battle. And this time I'll just... You know what I'll do? I'll quit the creative mode, because you know the creative mode quite well if you have played Dieselpunk Wars Prologue. This, however, is Dieselpunk Wars, no prologue, just the regular version of the game, which you can buy on Steam right now actually, and I do recommend you check it out, as well as check out any other games currently in development by my studio Image Power, since we're working on a number of other titles which are not yet close to being released. They're still very much so in the development. Dieselpunk Wars is the first game we're publishing, so we're very excited to bring it to you. And I do hope that it will rise up to your expectations and be everything you wanted it to be. Now, as we're going along, I'm going to showcase some larger battles on Battle Simulator. Now, I mentioned this before, Forest is good for people who like to challenge themselves in terms of harsh terrain, that's fit for either vehicles that are good on traversing difficult territory or small vehicles, so not necessarily a place where I want to have large battles. Instead, I just showcase the desert map and the island maps we've seen in the prologue version of the game, so I'll go back to the racetrack map and I'll showcase a larger battle with multiple vehicles, and I'll take control of some of those vehicles myself, why not? Alright, as you can see, we are near the racetrack right now, and there's a bit of a flat area here. We might as well use it for our purposes. Now, this area is wet, so we will see how well the AI does when it is actually fighting in wet terrain. They might have a very hard time compensating for it and moving around on it properly, so we'll see if it can handle itself, if it can manage. First of all, we'll give a few opponents to the red team, so something to attack the enemy from up close. We'll give it an ant. It is red, it's fitting. It'll stay at medium range, I suppose. Next up, I'll give it an easy rider. It's basically just a free kill for the enemy, but it might soak up some damage for its buddies. And finally, a miniature airship, which is surprisingly efficient about design, and it might cause the other team some trouble. Next up, we'll add the blue team. So the blue team is going to have a dastardly fork, which is definitely going to be a ramming ship, or rather a vessel. And I'm going to go ahead and move it a bit closer, just so that it can destroy the easy rider faster. And I'm also going to give them, let's say, a death cloud over here further away. And the blue team already is at a bit of a disadvantage, which is why I'm going to also spawn a third team, the pirate team, which is also going to be the most powerful. Oh, you know what? I could give the pirate team my ship, which is as strong as the entirety of the blue team, of the red team apparently, and even stronger than that. So yeah, I'll add my ship to the pirate section, and I'll set it to ram as well, so that it doesn't escape. It will be very difficult for the AI to control it, so we'll see how it goes. Right, brace yourselves. I'll turn off buildings AI, and we'll see how it goes. So, these vehicles definitely did go into ramming speed, and they rammed themselves, while my vehicle, wow, was destroyed so fast. I did not expect that at all. Meanwhile, you can see that something is happening. The ant is firing at the target above, while in the middle is just a total mayhem. So, let's go ahead and take a quick look. I'm going to take control over the Blade Racer. Like I mentioned, you as a human player can at any time take control over any vehicles in the battle simulation mode. And since blue team is doing very poorly, I'm going to try to save it, and I'll fire at my own friends. But that was too little too late, and the blue team is no more. They're basically gone. Alrighty then, so that was it for this attempt. Let's go ahead and reset properly everything, and I'm going to now change this up a little bit, because I want this battle to drag on for a little bit longer. So maybe The first hour is going to stay as it is. What would I change? Well, the ant actually did surprisingly well for the red team. And the Easy Rider wasn't destroyed instantly, which also really surprised me. So let's give it something that's a little bit tougher, but doesn't have quite as much firepower. Let's give it a turtle tank, shall we? Oh, I set it to a pirate team. Let's change it to a red team. There we go. So now red team is quite powerful, but I'll add one more vehicle to the blue team just because I want to even the odds. And I will give that the Poseidon's bite. No, I will get the minimum effort. This is going to be another ramming ship. It is going to do quite well. Oops. And now I assigned this ship to the pirates as well because I kept assigning ships wrongly. My bad. Now everything is fine. So as you can see, pirates now have the disadvantage. But I could give them some kind of ship to make up for it. Will I do it? Nah, those are pirates, filthy pirates, they don't deserve our sympathy. Let's go ahead and see another battle, how well it's going to go. In fact, let's go to the free camera because I was still in control of one of the ships. Alright, as you can see, my vehicle is still floating about and still firing, which is kind of hilarious. The kind of battle that this devolved into. And the ships keep trying to ram each other. And yeah, they destroyed themselves rather quickly, haven't they? Is there anything in the air still? Yes, there's one bomber. So unless this bomber is destroyed, I expect that the red team is going to win without all that much of a hassle. It should be able to destroy the enemy quite nicely. And yes, the enemy is now destroyed. And the blue team has actually won. Well, the pirates are still here. They're still fighting with my newly created ship, which is now going to try to ram, but it didn't really... Well, it is kind of drilling into the enemy a little bit. And it's still firing upon the other ship. So let's see, is it enough to take on the enemy? I don't know, but I'm going to drink some water as we find out. In fact, you know what? In order to drink water, I need a more interesting battle. Let's reset everything and see how things happen when the battle happens all over again while I take my sip of the drink. Excellent, I have an hour at hand, and my throat is feeling a little bit better. Alright, it seems like this time around it's more of an even fight, and the airship went somewhere else. Probably because it lost its engine and it doesn't know how to get back. But over here, it's still a fierce fight between red, blue and pirate, but red is out, and pirate is out as well. So it seems like the blue team is the victor. Wait a second, pirates are still here. I thought they blew up, but they still have guns. But yeah, they cannot really control themselves. It seems like they lost their engines, so well, they're moving slightly, but I don't think there's much hope for them. Alright, so that was the battle simulation mode which I showcased, and honestly, over the course of this and the previous live stream today, I showcased a lot, and I live streamed for over 4 hours, which is quite significant if I may say so myself. But now, at the end of the live stream, I'm going to stream for a little bit longer and I'll actually play the campaign mode. So, if you're not interested to find out what the campaign mode is all about, it's probably best if you stop watching and just buy the game, so that you can play the campaign on your own. I will try to skip through all of the dialogue as quickly as possible, so that if somebody randomly stumbles upon this live stream, they're not instantly, exposed to all the story, but I will play through it before I end this live stream, because I know that some people might be interested in that. So let's go ahead and do it. I'll start a campaign, I'll start a new game, and I already have a game called Hello, so let's call it Release, since that's what I'm playing on the release day. Very well. So the start of the campaign is a little bit slow because it is supposed to teach you the basics. Yes, there is a very in-depth tutorial available in the game, but we can't risk it, so obviously the campaign itself still has a fair amount of hand-holding at the start, but later on, as you get the hang of it, you'll start creating better vehicles on your own and you will not need as much hand-holding. So, like I mentioned, I will skip through as much of the story as possible in order to lower the chance of somebody being exposed to spoilers when they don't want to. Alright, so we started with a very simple mission. We are already in build mode and we have to add a few modules to our vehicle framework. So right now it's not much of a vehicle, it cannot do anything by itself. So let's go ahead and start looking for the modules in question. A small steam engine, fuel storage, crew room, and finally a funnel, which is going to be under cooling. So I'll real quick add all of these to my vehicle. So that includes the crew room, that includes the fuel storage, and obviously the funnel as well. That is enough to complete the first objective you get in the campaign. You basically learn the absolute basics of making a vehicle that can actually move. This vehicle, as you can see, it cannot do much. In fact, it cannot really do anything other than move around, but it is already a functioning vehicle, and that's all that we needed and wanted in here. So I'm going to go ahead and progress further and activate our next mission, which teaches me how to use my guns. So right now I am told to install my ammo storage. If you remember my tips on how to build a proper vehicle, you want this ammo storage to be far away from your command block. In this case, the start of the campaign is rather easy, so I'm not overly concerned, and I'll just place it wherever. I'll also get the gun opens armor piercing, and also I'll add the gun front, which is actually the gun front is the armor piercing one, whereas the guns open are high explosive ones. So I'll go ahead and I'll stay in tune with my color, why not? So add them at the front of my vehicle. I'll rotate my vehicle as well. This isn't the color. Let's go ahead and change the color to what it is supposed to be. I believe this is the right one. Yes, it is. And then I'll go ahead and add some more guns at the top of my vehicle. And this should be quite fine, except I still need the ammo storage, so let's keep it far away. That's good enough. All right. And now I should be able to destroy this wreckage quite quickly. Just fire a few times into its ammo block, perhaps into its command block, and it will be destroyed without any issue. So this was a lesson on how to create a ship that can actually fire and defend itself. Now at this point you are of course able to continue tweaking and improving your vehicle. I will wait until we have a bigger budget. In the campaign you have a limited budget part for your parts. So basically you cannot go over the amount of your budget, and you cannot create massive ships that will instantly win you the entire campaign. No, you have to stay under the budget, and the amount of modules you have access to in the campaign is also limited. The amount of modules you have access to, however, will increase as you progress through the story, unlock more missions, and so on and so forth. The same is true for the budget. There is also a skill tree which you are able to unlock as you progress through the campaign, which will help you on your quest. For now, let us go ahead and continue on our way towards the next mission objective. There is a side mission right over there. You can see the question mark. I'm however going to ignore it. I'll leave something for you to explore. So, who knows what this mission is? I skipped through the story as quickly as possible so that you wouldn't see it. But basically the quest now is to destroy the enemy ammo transport. Again, it's an ammo transport. It is a very weak vehicle and it's filled with ammo, so it explodes very fast. And it wasn't much of a challenge at all. Right, now I'm going to soon encounter an area where I'll have to fight more enemies, so I'll add more weapons to my vehicle. And this isn't a strong vehicle by any stretch of the imagination, but it should do me quite nicely for the rest of the introductory section. So next up you just have to see if you have a vehicle that can either move underneath this tunnel or move above it. Nice and easy, and you should be able to find your next checkpoint right over here. My vehicle is just barely narrow enough to move through it without that much of an issue. And as I progress through this area, I'll soon encounter another of my missions. And we'll be able to continue progressing the story along and seeing how new enemies arrive that I'll have to deal with. For now, however, I will not remake my vehicle. I believe it is going to be marginally strong enough to destroy those enemies. I know where the weak spots are, and you always want to fire at your enemy's weak spots in order to ensure that they are properly destroyed. Oh wow. And you don't want the enemy to fire at your weak spot, so I'm trying to aim at the enemy's ammo block, which I know is over there, but the enemy is trying to fire at my ammo block, so it is a bit of a cat and mouse game, you see. I see on my minimap map in the lower right corner that there's another ship somewhere here in those woods that is trying to fight me, but this ship can wait. Oh, the enemy is having some difficulty moving through a forest. Well, they are tearing down some trees. So let's see if I can, by any chance, destroy their ammo block. Come on, the enemy isn't very dangerous. It is again an enemy that is supposed to teach you how to fight against your enemies. Now, there's another enemy in there, but I have taken some damage, so I'll repair my ship by pressing the asterisk button. Now, if I were to be fired upon while repairing, it would stop my repair quite brutally, but at this time, things are fine. So let's go ahead and continue moving forward. And let's see if I can find the other ship that is waiting for me. Yep, it is right over there. Let's go ahead and open fire. It now sees us. It didn't see us before. I should be able to take it down without that much of an issue, hopefully. Well, it is going to charge me. It is still charging. Where did it go? Okay. I didn't expect this kind of strategy, but the AI does try its best to avoid being shot by you. But I destroyed one of its wheels, and now it's going to have a very hard time getting out of the area it's at. And I was able to destroy it by firing at its underbelly, where its weak spot was. As you can see, there are a number of other side missions that you can complete to gain access to more build points, to unlock more paths, and I do encourage you to check all of them out. I, however, am going to just completely ignore those so that there's something new for you to do when you give the campaign mode a try. Alright, I'm going to continue moving about and eventually encounter another main objective, so let's go ahead and see what is in store. Again, I'm going to go ahead and skip all of the story, but now we have to create a vehicle that can actually swim. Don't worry, it's actually not that difficult. All I need to do is, first of all, find some sea propellers, steers, and air tanks, which should be under... I cannot find them. I could search for them by tapping air tanks, and there we go. I didn't remember where they were, but now I was able to find them, and I do encourage you to use the system as frequently as possible. Alright, I'll enable the mirror mode, which will make my job a little bit easier. And I'll add air tanks at the front of the ship and at the back of the ship as well. There we go. So this will make it so that my vehicle is a little bit more buoyant. Next up, I'll add some sea propellers. Actually, I want to turn my vehicle around a little bit. It should be easier for me to see underneath it when it's not in the dense vegetation of this map. So let's see, I will want to add the sea propellers like so, and also add some steers over here. And now my vessel should be quite good, but since we're modifying it already, I'm just going to go ahead and modify the way it moves in general. So I already unlocked some better parts for land propellers, so I'm going to go ahead and add some tracks and maybe turnable wheels at the front. So it's going to be a mix of a track / wheel vehicle. I'll enable the mirror mode again. I shouldn't have disabled it. And I'll add the tracks in the back and turnable wheels at the front. Oh, actually, I cannot attach a turnable wheel to the air modules that increase my buoyancy. That's a bit of a problem, but not a very big problem, mind you, so I'll be able to handle that. I'll add my cubes like so, and I'll add the buoyancy modules at the front of my ship. They will also act as an extra bit of armor. Anywho, now I should be able to add my... You know what? I'll cheat. I'm going to add 2 more cubes. Over here, I'm going to add the turnable wheels. Oh, I'm not using the right wheel. My bad. That's the wheel I wanted. That's why I couldn't add it. Well, sometimes you make stupid mistakes. That's the wheel that should work. Now, I was trying to use wheels that actually are supposed to go underneath the vehicle instead of wheels that are supposed to go on the side of the vehicle, you see. Alright, now this vehicle is quite good on the ground and should also be able to swim quite nicely as well. So let's have a quick look, see, can it swim, does it swim well? It seems like it does. Now, it doesn't swim very fast because it doesn't have enough power. As you can see, we only have 23% of our required power. This is by no means enough, so we're going to change a little bit the way our vehicle works, because obviously when we want to have a very awesome and fancy vehicle. So I'll add 2 more crew rooms at the back of the vehicle first of all. I'll keep the ammo storage where it is, and I'll add proper engines, that being the diesel engines, because we have now unlocked those, and I definitely want to have them. And finally, I'll add, instead of regular fuel storage, I'll add liquid fuel to make sure that my ship can move fine. Now, it still has a low power output, but it should be good enough. So as you can see, this allows you to increase the speed at which your vehicle moves somewhat. Of course, in order to make it even faster, I should probably just add more engines and more fuel. And now this, as you can see, the speed at which my vehicle moves has increased even further. And it will increase even more so when I'm actually on land. So as you can see, on land it's now actually quite fast. On the water, because of its mass and buoyancy, it is a little bit slow, but it can still move at a decent enough pace, decent enough for us not to get old by the time I reach to the next mission objective. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and go over... I hit some rock, my bad. Let's go over here, unlock the next mission. Again, I'll skip through the story as much as possible. Now is the tricky part. Now you have to convert this vehicle into something that can actually fly. This might be a bit of a challenging thing, especially if you're a first-time player, so I'll show you exactly how I do it. First of all, we don't need that much fuel or this many engines. We're not using them right now. Next up, I'm going to enable the center of mass and center of lift, because these are necessary for us to balance our vehicle properly so that it can actually be lifted up. Finally, I need my vehicle to be somewhat light. So I cannot add anything that is too heavy to it, otherwise it will be difficult for me to lift it up. So, first of all, I'll go back to my cube. Right now I only have access to iron and glass, so it is still going to be relatively heavy. But I'm going to go ahead and paste it like so, and now with it over here I'm going to create a balloon of sorts. So like this, I'm going to start creating my balloon. Now the critical thing is that you want the center of mass and the center of lift to be more or less in the same area. They don't have... It's okay if the center of lift is higher than the center of mass, that's the point. You just want to make sure that your center of lift isn't to the side of the center of mass and vice versa. But this should be decent enough balloon. I'll just add a few more curvy balloons so that it looks a little bit nicer. I also have to watch out on my budget. As you can see on the center of my screen at the top, my budget starts filling up dangerously fast. But it's nothing I won't be able to handle. I hope, although I'm already dangerously close to being over budget. But no, I'll be able to stay under budget, I think. Except I still haven't installed my propellers, which is a bit of an issue. So I'll get rid of the water buoyancy thingies. I don't need my vehicle to be buoyant again, since I can now have it so that it actually flies. That's more useful feature, I would say. Let's go ahead and have a quick look at my air propellers, and I'll install 2 of them at the back of my ship and also maybe on the side. Now, installing them at the back of my ship was actually kind of hasty. You want to install your air propellers where your center of mass is, so that when you move, your ship doesn't move too much to the side. So install them over here, and this should be good enough, maybe. That's the hope at any rate. I'll just keep them as they are. for the time being. This should be enough to, at the very least, get to the top of that ledge. So let's see, is my armor balloon strong enough? Yes, they are. Can I fly? Yes, although only forward, but it is a stable flight. For this section, I don't care if I cannot turn just yet. I'll deal with that later. Let's just get over here and land. Now, I could just maneuver, but I'm lazy. I'm going to instead just drive backwards and that way reach the mission objective. Nicely done. Let us now go ahead and reach the next mission objective. It's going to be a fast little mission. It is going to make sure that you can actually reach an area in time, so you need a fairly fast vehicle if you are to do this. I'm a little bit low on power, so in order to guarantee my success, I'll add another diesel engine. And we'll see if this is now good enough. I'll hold down the shift key to use afterburners. Obviously, I don't have any proper afterburners, but I can put my engines into overdrive. Alright, let's see, 4 seconds, I might not be able to make it, let's see if I can. Alright, I did it, just barely, but this vehicle was fast enough and I'm proud of it for being fast enough. Excellent. Next up, I'll activate this respawn point, so whenever I want to, I can respawn in my allied base. And finally, I can go ahead and prepare something of a more menacing vehicle. It's high time I do this, because the next mission might be a little bit more challenging than you would otherwise expect. So I'm going to move maybe somewhere where there aren't those pipes in the way. And now I can go ahead and work on this vehicle being a little bit more menacing and better. Although it is already quite decent, I can't lie. It's working, so I'll leave it as it is for the time being. What I will do, however, is unlock some extra skills. So first of all, I do want more strength, and I want more power production as well. And I have one more ability point to use, so collision resistance or accuracy. I'll go for collision resistance. This should make my ship a little bit more resistant, well, to collision, as you may imagine. Alright. I'm now going to go ahead and add a few more gas floater sections to my balloon. So I'll add them into the back, at the back, so that I can actually now properly fly. And I shouldn't go over budget just yet, at the very least that is my hope. And we'll see if it's well placed. Yes, I'm not over budget, and my center of lift is... it's suboptimal because of me not having paths in this area. Right, I can fix that easily. And I'm still under budget, which is excellent. My center of lift is in the proper spot. So now, just to make sure, I'll save this vehicle as campaign guy. That's how he's going to be called. I'm going to go ahead and save the vehicle. Nice and easy, and yeah, I believe that it's quite ready for any challenges that are coming. So let's see if I'm not wrong. Now, just because I know what's coming, I'm going to go ahead and destroy those pipes. Yes, I know it's an allied base, you can still destroy those pipes. They are proper ships, so they don't destroy it quite as a detailed fashion as vehicles do, but it should still be helpful. Let's also repair my ship so that I regain all of my ammo. Repairing ship not only fixes all of the damage, but also restocks your ammo, so do use that liberally. Alright, finally we got access to a mortar turret. And I probably want to make use of it because it's very good at dispatching those nasty little flyers that are attacking our base, but perhaps I won't need it. Let's go ahead and increase my lift as much as possible as the enemy is trying to fight us. As you can see, we do have an ally of our own, while our allied base is trying to help us out as well, but the enemy is flying quite high and trying to get away from the side of our allied base. Well, that is fine, we have weapons of our own, and in fact what I could have done is enable the auto-fire module so that I would be able to... I wouldn't have to aim quite as hard, and it would be easier for me to actually destroy the enemy. But as you can see, my base is very powerful and it is able to dispatch the enemy without that much of an issue. That enemy ship is now on fire. I am, however, being pushed further back because of all the explosions. So let's go ahead and lower my altitude just so I can try to escape the enemy Man, they're pushing me all the way to the boundaries of the map because of how many shots I'm taking. That's fine. Alright, I was able to almost destroy that one enemy. Come on, stop pushing me around, guys. You're being mean, you're being really mean. Alright, only one enemy remaining. Oh, no, I'm the guy who's moving. I thought this is the front side of the ship. No, I was flying backwards. That's why it was all wrong. Also, I cannot turn, I forgot about that, but thankfully my base finished the mission for me. I was wondering why I keep going in the wrong direction. It's because I was literally, well, going in the wrong direction. Alright, let's go ahead and now go drive back to our base. It shouldn't be that hard of a task unless I flip. Alright, let's go ahead and start flying. Stop flying. Start flying again so that I can get my vehicle in order. Or instead, you could just rotate your vehicle while in build mode by using the Z and X buttons, which is a preferable way of doing things because it's just much easier. You can also repair your ship instantly in the build mode. Alright, let's go back to our base. They should welcome us with open arms now that we have them repel the invaders without all that much of a problem. Although, to be fair, it was our base that did most of the work, so I should probably upgrade my vessel, so I'll do it right now. I'll go back over here so that I don't activate the next story mission. And I'm going to modify my turrets so that they actually fire on their own, which should make them a little bit better when dealing with the enemy flyers. Excellent. Now that I dealt with that, I need to make the ship into something that can turn a little bit better. I'll give it a steer. Sure, it will allow me to turn a little bit while in the air. I don't necessarily want to stay in the air, mind you, but should I choose to do so, it will be a little bit easier to turn. Alright, and now that I have prepared my ship, I didn't change much, let's be entirely honest, but it should be decent enough to deal with the other wave of enemies, so let's see how it goes. Again, skipping as much of the story as possible, but things blew up. And oh no, you have to help and see how well it goes. Right, the enemy vehicles, they're flying above us again, but we'll try to do our best to deal with those things. This time I know which way is forward, which way is backwards. And as you can see, my turrets now, because I enabled auto fire, they just fire on their own at the nearest enemy, which should make this fight quite a bit easier. Now, I should have added some turrets that I would still control, because right now, having set all my turrets to auto-fire, you know, it's a little bit boring and it makes it very difficult for me to aim. So, let's go ahead and trick the enemies into going on the ground. And basically, I'm going to try to make the enemies chase me. Let's see if that's going to work out. No, they still have quite a good cone of fire. Come on, you know we want to get lower. I'm basically trying to trick them into actually being attacked by from an area where they would be more vulnerable, because if I'm higher up, I believe they have the advantage. They are way more mobile than I am, and otherwise also superior, so no, I don't think I can actually succeed in this mission right now. I don't think this vehicle is going to cut it. Nevertheless, that's not a big deal. I can just reject the mission. Yes, I'm sure. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can load one of my other campaign vehicles to do this mission for me. Firstly, however, I'll increase my accuracy. Nicely done. Secondly, I'll repair my ship. And finally, I will add some mortars, actually. Instead of loading a different ship, I believe that having a weapon that will be better against flyers is going to be exactly the kind of thing that the doctor ordered. So, mortar turrets, here we go. I'll try to place them where the middle of my where my center of mass is, so that they'll be quite nice. And this should make it a little bit easier for me to dispatch those nasty pesky little flyers. Alright, with those modifications made, let's see how well I can do with the mission now. I just need to go back a little bit. And let's see, is it going to be easier? Well, my vehicle is actually a lot heavier, so it is currently a little bit harder instead of easier. But thankfully I was able to get those ships in range of some of the missile turrets that are still active. Sadly, it's far harder to actually hit those ships. They are very mobile, and they're trying very hard to duke my shots, but... my apologies. But I will not yield. I'll do my best to actually take them down. And for this case, mortars are actually pretty good because of the high explosive nature. They should be able to set the enemy ship on fire, as well as hopefully just entirely take it out, if at all possible. Right, actually, I want to start flying a little bit more forward. And actually, I'll lower my altitude because I should have some more help with this mission, which right now I'm not having. It makes me feel like I will need to reconstruct my vehicle entirely if I want to succeed, but I will not yield just yet. Although I am out of ammo, so since I am out of ammo, I will need to definitely restock on it, so I'll need to repair. So let's lower my altitude, find a safe place to restore my ammo, and I'm going to get destroyed. Unfortunately, it seems like. Well, maybe if I get over here, let's lower the altitude again. I'm struggling, I have to admit, way more so than I did when in every other time when I tried to play through this mission. It was far easier in the past. Oh well. Yeah, I don't think I have what it takes to actually complete it. The enemy has the advantage, so what I would need to have is a ship that isn't pretending to try to fly, but a ship that has good anti-air weapons. So I'll reject the mission again. I will restart, which puts me back in my allied base. And let's see, can I load the vehicle I made in my campaign? I don't believe I can because it will use elements that are blocked. Yeah, so I cannot load that vehicle. So instead I'm going to clear this vehicle. This will take too much time. I won't clear this vehicle because I'm tight on schedule actually, and I need to get going and finish the live stream at some point. I'm also a little bit tired. So what I'm going to do is get rid of the balloon. It was nice to have a flying vehicle, and I might return to it in the future, but for now, what I need more than anything is a vehicle that can deal with those pesky, annoying little flyers. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and add some proper armor for my ship. It would be best to have aerodynamic armor, of course. Now, I don't care too much about this vessel because I am playing the campaign on a different save file. Besides, I played through the campaign a few times already, since, you know, I kind of helped make the game. Although I'm no expert at the campaign, I haven't played it all that much. Other players were responsible for setting it up more so than I was. Nevertheless, I'll add more anti-air and I'll add more motor modules, since now my budget will allow me to have quite a few more weapons. I could have anti-air artillery. I'll add it to the back. I'll also add my mortars, which, like I mentioned, I really like the mortar turrets. They're quite effective at taking care of literally everything that you have a problem with. I'm lacking crew, I'm lacking fuel. This is a bit of an issue. But I don't need... Actually, wait a second. I can get rid of my air propellers, which will mean that I have more crew available. Next up, I can have more crew rooms. Let's say at the back of the vehicle, maybe? Okay, sure, why not? I'll also disable center of lift instead of mass. I don't need them anymore. Right, and I'm also a little bit low on fuel, so let's add fuel and crew rooms on the side. And sure, my vehicle is a little bit vulnerable to attacks from behind, but I don't believe this is something I necessarily have to be afraid of. I mean, the enemy would try to get behind me, but I believe it's going to be fine. Alright, anti-air artillery at the back also has been created. So now what I'm going to do is make sure that the anti-air artillery also has the auto-aim, while the mortars, they all will be controlled by me, since I'll probably be able to aim them a little bit better, and because of this I'll be able to shoot down enemy incoming aircraft with more ease. Hopefully. You know what? I still have more budget. I know I'm low on ammo. I am low on ammo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable the mirror mode. I'm going to add more ammo storage. to over here, add the liquid fuel I needed, and add this diesel engine like so. Yeah, sure, the diesel engine is exposed, but I would rather have my diesel engine exposed than my ammo block. Finally, I'll have one last set of guns at the top to make it even easier to shoot down enemy vehicles. So now I'm just a walking, or rather riding gun. Very terrifying vehicle. So let's save it as release anti-air vehicle. So save vehicle, and let's see how well this one does. Now it might be a little bit tricky. The enemy will be high above me, so I have a very hard time actually hitting them when I'm on the ground, but maybe it's going to be fine. Alright, so let's go ahead and see. Is this vehicle enough? First of all, I'll go back. Right, my turrets are having a bit of a hard time aiming at the enemies, just like they did before. Only a few proper mortar shots. Oh, wait, what happened? Oh no, I was blown up. Right, let's restart. That's because my armor block was too exposed. I thought it's going to be safe, but apparently it wasn't. Oh well, let's just try it again. Maybe this time it's going to be better. I'll move backwards. It's more difficult for them to hit my ammo block. Right, I was at least able to destroy some of the enemy, and as you can see, my anti-air turrets are doing their absolute best. And okay, thanks to my allies, one of the enemy was destroyed. It wasn't really my doing, it was rather my allies doing. But I'll take what I can get. So now, all that is left to do is to clear out the enemies that are on the ground in front of the gate. But with the amount of guns we have, it should be rather easy. Wait, what did they do? Oh, they destroyed one of my wheels, that's why I'm tilting forwards. Oh well. I should still be quite good at taking it out. The enemy vehicle is entirely on fire, and it has now blown up. Very nice. Alright, this is a pretty good showcase of the campaign. More things are happening over there, but you've seen me go through the beginning stages, and now I want to talk a little bit more about the game itself. And again, before I finish the live stream, showcase some of the other game modes and say my few words of goodbye. So again, Dieselpunk Wars is, as you've seen already clearly, a vehicle building game with very advanced physics engine, which calculates every single projectile in the game. Every single projectile can be bounced off armor if the impact velocity is low enough and the angle is just right. There is air drag taken into account. Everything you see here is extremely sophisticated, and it should give you a lot of fun as well. Let us now go ahead and demonstrate the beauty of the battle simulator one more time, since it is again something that is wasn't revealed up until today, when Dieselpunk Wars actually went live on Steam. So I do encourage you to check out our game on Steam right now, and if it tickles your fancy, why not check out the other games that we have currently in development. Mind you, most of the other games we have on our Steam page are still very early in development, so it will take some time to see any game of ours come out. Dieselpunk Wars was the first game we were able to prepare, and as such it is also a very important day for us to make sure that everything is just fine. Alright, so battle simulation mode, very simple. You pick the area where you want to fight. I've already showcased this area. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to where there's more of a denser vegetation, and there is an area of dense vegetation right over here. So let's go ahead and showcase some of the battle over here. Let's see. Well, maybe let's not involve any swimming vehicles this time around. Let's do it over here, where the vegetation stops being so dense. I'll first spawn some vehicles for the red team. I do want to see how well the red team is going to handle my final hour airship. I'm very proud of this one. It's one of my favorite creations. So let's see how good it is when handled by an AI. I'll also give the red team something a little bit more stable. Let's give it the hammer. That's a very powerful vessel, rather, and it should do very well when fighting against the enemy. So now the red team has two powerful vehicles. Let's give the blue team something to counteract those kind of magnificent creations. I shall give them the first hour, the vehicle I just created during this live stream. It probably won't do very well because as we've seen, it does have a tendency of blowing up, but it will try to do as best as it can, I believe. And I will also give the AI the sea monster, since it is very powerful and versatile and should be useful in a variety of situations. And finally, I'll also give the blue AI, quite importantly, actually, first of all, you guy should probably be a ram. I'll give him a minimum effort as well, which is a ship that is easy to create, but it is also quite dangerous. And finally, the blue team, you know what? It is a bit of a one-sided battle when you look at the score, but 3 against 2 seems like a fair enough battle to me. So let's go ahead and see what exactly is going to happen here. So first of all, it seems like, yeah, the hammer is very fast, and yeah, the AI instantly nullified my final hour as the balloon was disconnected, and now it is completely unusable and the final hour is simply going to be destroyed. So that is a bit of unfortunate. Whereas the other ship of the red team, the hammer, has also seen better days. Okay, that was a very one-sided battle. So let's go ahead and change it. I'm going to go ahead and repair our ships. I'm going to remove the final hour. Clearly, it's not the best ship to have in this particular scenario. I will reset our vehicles so that they are not on fire. That's probably useful. And for the red team, I'll give something else. I'll give... Is there anything else I created on live on stream here? Not really. I'll just give them, let's see. What can I give the red team? I'm a little bit tired, which is why it's difficult for me to make some decisions. I'll give them the Blade Racer. That's nice and easy. And I'll also give them the tried and tested and a little bit awkward to control drone ship. We'll see how well it does. And yeah, you all guys, you're going to be rammers. So let's see. The teams are slightly towards, theoretically slightly in red's favor, but judging by how the battle went last time, I believe that the blue team is going to have the upper hand in this fight. So let's have a quick look-see how it's going to go. And yeah, the hammer is just trying to crush the first hour, but then the hammer digs itself into the sand, which is not exactly ideal. The Blade Racer is trying to destroy the sea monster, but the sea monster is dodging out of the way, so it's a bit difficult for it to do anything. While the drone ship keeps firing, and it looks like the hammer went down. Yeah, red team, however, is at a disadvantage. The drone ship is taking severe damage from the enemy, and the Blade Racer, while it does have a good cone of fire on my first hour, the first hour, as you can see, is very nimble. It's actually quite useful for the desert map, and yeah, it's definitely a one game by the red team. So let's reset it one more time, and before the enemy can destroy themselves completely, I'll change a few things. So far red team had a really hard time, so now what I'm going to do is I'll take control over the hammer, which somehow jumped into the air. Alright. I don't know how it did that, but I saw the AI using afterburners, so I guess it used some afterburners to actually propel itself upwards. Well, first of all, I need to take care of the final hour. It's very dangerous, and making sure that it doesn't exist is going to be the first order of business, but I was nevertheless destroyed, and as such, it seems like there's still no hope for the red team. The first hour, it might be vulnerable, fragile, and difficult to control, but man, the firepower it has is truly severe. Now what I would like to do is... You know what? I didn't mean to press the back to menu button, but I did. So while the stream is still going on, I'm going to briefly jump back into the desert map, but this time in creative mode. I want to create a very big vehicle just to showcase the scale that you can strive towards in this game, because you can create some truly massive, magnificent vehicles. So let's have a quick look-see. This, as you can see, is one of the roads on this map. It is a very long road and it can support very large vehicles. So let's go ahead and create a vehicle from scratch. And I'll be very fast because I don't have a whole lot of time, but I do want to create a fun, large vehicle. So first of all, I'll paint my command module. And I don't know why I'm going for black this time. Apparently I just decided that black is in fashion. Right, so you've seen me do this already. I don't need to explain it. I'll just try to make it as much of a speed build as possible. So first of all, crew rooms. I'll need a lot of those for a proper massive vehicle. In fact, you know what? I'll do it differently. I'll do the crew rooms like this. Alright, that's a lot of crew compartments, but even more, I really do want this vehicle to be big and lengthy as well. Alright, excellent. So now that the crew compartments have been laid out, what I need is to have, let's see, speed build. I'm going to make it as quick as humanly possible. I'm going to have some frames, so let's go ahead and do that. And those frames are going to support other parts of my vehicle. So let's say 5 frames in the back, 5 frames in the front. I want to create a massive tank. Or maybe I should create something that walks on mechanical legs. That is an option, but I wanted to create the biggest modules we have available, and mechanical legs are those. Alright, let's link those frame modules just so that it's a little bit more secure, just in case something breaks. Alright, next up I will need to have some engines, so let's real quick go ahead and grab the huge diesel engines. Because you know you want to see them, I know I want to see them. So let's go ahead and install them over here, and we'll install 4, that's right, 4 of those bad boys. Next up we'll need to have some place where we can have proper fuel, so I'm going to go ahead and install more frames. And I'll install fuel above the engines. The reason why I'm doing this above the engines is because I really don't want them to be stuck together too close. So above the engines should be fine. The space is only 3 spaces long. Alright, we'll do it like this then. A very unconventional approach to how fuel is distributed. It's also probably not optimal, but that's what I'm going for. Alright, excellent. Now that this is handled, I'll probably need some cooling. This time I will go for proper cooler modules, and I'll install them between all the fuel modules. You don't have to have coolers adjacent to your engines or anything of the sort. It's fine if they are adjacent, for instance, to your fuel modules. They're still going to work just fine. Alright, so now that we have a lot of power, a lot of crew and a lot of fuel, we're going to need to have some means of propulsion. So absolutely, I'm going to have something truly epic. So first of all, in order to support this truly epic thing, I will need to have some hull parts, so I'll add them right now. So cube times 4, cubes times 3, I lost it, there you go. Long cube and regular cube. And yeah, let's go ahead and install those extra parts, just like so, on both sides, and these are going to be where my actual tracks are mounted. Am I using iron? I probably should have used something different. I could have used titanium for this particular build, but oh well, it's going to be good enough, I believe. You know what? I could make those things even larger, and it's probably smart if I were to do this. So let's go ahead and go for cube 3x2. 3x2 cubes and install those bad boys. And yeah, and these are going to be where my tracks are going to go, and my tracks, like I mentioned, are going to be absolutely ridiculously massive. So huge long tracks. I almost said drags, that's not what I meant to say. Let's attach them right over here. Alright, so this vehicle is now properly massive, and it should move quite well as well. Right, it does have a hard time braking, and as you can see, I was even able to go through some of the barriers. That is fine, however. But yeah, I have a very fast tank that I can create into an absolutely massive machine. It's not very good at, you know... Wow, it actually turns really well as well. That's kind of incredible. I'm happy to see that. Anywho, let's go ahead and continue working on it, since we know that it moves very well already. Okay, so next up, I need this vehicle to be armed. So it is going to be a tank. It is going to be a tank with absolutely massive guns. So let's just find something that is truly ridiculous, shall we? At the front I'm going to install, maybe not this turret because it wouldn't be symmetrical and I do care about that, but I can install those bad boys. Isn't quite enough space, but that's fine. I can just clear out this area. Now I'm a little bit low on fuel, but again, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make just to have those two massive guns at the front of my tank. And now I truly don't want to be anywhere near it if I am my own enemy. That sentence made no sense, but don't worry about it. Next up, with my massive... Those are armor piercing guns at the front. I do want something that is high explosive, so let's have a quick look-see. Those are high explosive. This is a high explosive turret, so I could set it up somewhere. It is, however, 4x4, which means that it wouldn't really sit nicely on top of my vehicle. So maybe I'll go for something smaller. This is a 2x2 high explosive turret. A bit disappointing in terms of size. We also have a quad turret, but it is also a 2x2. You know what? I'll go for this. I'll have explosive turrets here in the back. Rather, that's not really the back, but rather the central area of my vehicle. And these ones are going to... They're not going to be able to fire at the front simultaneously, so that's a little bit awkward. So I'll just have two of those at the front. And that's going to be fine. And this is already a very, very high amount of firepower. I probably don't need much more, but I will have some extra anti-air also. So in order to have my ship properly protected from any attempts to fly above it and bombard it from high up, I'm going to add some double turrets. And I'll go ahead and install them like so, so that not only I am defended from air attacks, but I'm also defended in case the enemy tries to go above me. So this should be quite nice and nifty. And I could also fit one turret in here, but this would look really ridiculous and puny, so I'm not gonna bother doing anything of the sort. Alright, finally, just for good measure, I could install some sort of turret over here, just so that I have a little bit more versatility. So I'll add a sphere gun right over here. I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. So yes, two sphere guns at the front. They will allow me to fight a little bit better against small enemies, so this should be quite useful. Alright, I'm going to burn through my ammo real quick. Oh, speaking of which, I forgot about ammunition. Alright, so ammunition is tricky, because if it blows up, your entire ship is going... Well, not entire ship is going to blow up, but most likely a large chunk of your ship is going to blow up. So you need to keep your ammo in a place where it's moderately safe. So for that reason, I'm going to create a few frames over underneath my vehicle, since, as you can see, my vehicle is truly massive, so it is unlikely that anybody will be able to shoot down underneath my vehicle to expose the ammo blocks and take them out. So this should be a pretty nifty strategy. Let's go ahead and add some extra ammo storages. There we go. And I'll add them over here. Not like this, definitely not like this, like this. And also over here. And I'll probably extend them even further. I'll make them into singular ammo storages as well. Now, if anybody somehow manages to hit even one of my ammo storages, my entire vehicle will turn into just a beautiful display of fireworks. But the hope is that they will not be able to do anything of the sort. Alright, and now before I start applying armor to my ship, I also want to make sure that my turrets have auto-aim enabled, since these are supposed to be anti-air turrets, so I don't want to have to bother aiming them properly myself. I just want them to fire by their own, and this should be good enough. The front turrets I could also send to be auto-aimed, but I want to control them myself. Alright, let's save this vehicle as... how should I call it? I'm going to call it the Black Belt. Why? I don't really know. I just feel like calling it Black Belt. I'm also going to take a sip of water, since I desperately need to have a bit of a drink. And I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'll be right back. I'm back, my apologies, it was kind of a trivial technical issue and my headset fell off. It happens even to the best of us, and so that's just how it goes sometimes. So now that I'm back and at your disposal, let's have a quick look-see at how well this vehicle performs. Without the armor, that is. Does it have a decent amount of firepower? Which should have. Of course, these upper turrets are set to auto-fire, so I cannot really control them. So let's spawn an airship and see how well it's going to... how my other turrets are going to deal with that. In fact, I'm not even going to control my ship at all. Well, I might control it just a little bit, just so that I can finish the enemy a little bit faster. But it looks like my anti-air defense, well, it wasn't able to destroy the enemy completely very quickly. It seemed more than enough to weaken the enemy and cripple it and drive it further away from me so that I cannot be bombarded by anybody. So that's good. Alright, so they definitely passed their test, so that's good. I can now continue working on my ship as I was before. Let's go ahead and repair it real quick so that there is no damage applied to it at all when I save it later down the line. And now I can go ahead and simply, let's see, apply some armor. Of course, there's other thing I almost forgot about, and that is detection. Like I mentioned earlier, detection is crucial because you need to know what enemies you're firing at. So for that reason, I'm going to add detection modules at the front of my ship right over there. And I'm going to also add them somewhere in other areas of my ship. But I will probably use the sloped version because I'll use a lot of slopes for my ship. So detection on the sides as well, just like this. And in fact, here on the sides, detection is also going to be quite useful. I do want to have my roundy turrets, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. No, I'm not willing to make a sacrifice. Roundy turrets are round, they're gorgeous and they're beautiful and they're cute. So I'm going to keep them as they are. Finally, I don't know why I keep cycling between those spotting modules, but I'll add more spotting modules over here. And let's say in the form of... Actually, those turrets, they need to be higher than they are right now. Because right now I have no way of protecting my fuel compartment. So if anybody bombards me, my fuel will be toast. That's a little bit annoying. And you know what? Let's just say that this is a deliberate weakness in the design of my ship. That's fine. And I'll just armor it up as well as I possibly can. So, alright. So my ship now has a few spotting modules. It's now time to apply some decent armor to it. So let's make sure that I have everything set up properly. So I'll definitely need to have slopes, including long slopes and super long slopes. So wait, I don't need long slopes, rather I need wide slopes. That's those are the ones I was looking for. Let's go for triangles as well, that might be useful too. Alright, so start applying those to my ship. I can rotate my parts really easily, as you can see right now with this example. I don't like how my ship, or rather my vessel, is protruding a little bit in the back. It does have a heavy back, but that's okay. Wait, I don't want a wide long slope, I just want a regular wide slope, which is right over here. There we go. In fact, for this particular section, I just want a regular slope, and at the front I'm going to also add a few more slopes. So one more regular slope, and over here I'm just going to add a triangle, so that, you know, there is a bit more aerodynamic involved, even though the bow at the front is really ruining the air drag for me entirely. But that is something I'll have to deal with. This vessel is, however, so massive, I don't believe I need to be worried about air drag all that much. I'll be entirely honest with you. Alrighty then, let's go ahead and add some more slopes over here, and finally wide slopes in the back, and a regular slope right over here. Right, now my ship is nicely protected. I'll add cubes over here as well, so that I'm somewhat decently protected from airstrikes, just like this. And I'll also add longer cubes to finish up the top of my armor. Now this ship is probably not going to be quite as armored as I was hoping it would be, but that's fine. Like I said, I'm leaving a deliberate weakness because I'm actually short on time. I've been streaming for 5 hours already. With a break, sure, but 5 hours is a long time, as you might imagine. And my throat is nearing its limit, so I definitely want to hurry it up. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and add... Where is the cube 3x2? There we go. I'm going to add those cubes onto my ship, somewhere in the middle maybe, and then I'll have space for long cubes over here. And yes, I know those are technically speaking not cubes, but they're close enough, I suppose. Alright, and there's a bit of a free spot over here that I also need to add armor to. And also the front of my ship again, same deal. Alright, and now I'm properly armored from the top. From the pack, not so much. Let's go ahead and fix that, but instead of just applying armor, I'm going to actually leave us room so that I can add some extra firepower, or rather acceleration to my ship. And I'll do so by looking for proper rocket modules. There we go. So now whenever I need to accelerate really quickly, I should be able to do so without a problem. Now finally I'm going to add the underbelly of the beast, and I'm going to use that again using the slopes. This kind of ship is going to make it more likely that my vehicle is going to avoid any damage that it would take from enemy attacks, and I do want to protect my my ammo modules as much as possible. From the side again, I do want to protect my ammo modules, so I'll give them a bit of extra protection in the form of extra layer of armor. I don't need to make it all that aerodynamic or reflective, since I'm already protected by the massive tracks that are on the side anyway. I just want to make sure that my ammo blocks are not completely exposed, and then I'll be happy. Alright, speaking of completely exposed, let's make sure they cannot be hit from the bottom, and I want to cover up my command module from the bottom as well, just to be safe. You never know, you never know. Stranger things have happened than the enemy being able to shoot underneath your vehicle. So let's make sure that I'm somewhat protected. Alright, over here I'll add a few more longer blocks to finish up my attempt at making sure that my ship is properly armored. And finally, that front section, it really shouldn't have those scaffolding-like modules. I'm just going to add regular proper blocks, and then I'll make them a little bit more aerodynamic by using long slopes. So I'm going to go ahead and look for long slopes real quick. Long slope, where is it? There we go. Just like this, and also in the middle I'm going to add some close combat weapons. So let's go for close combat and add a few drills. So if anybody ever gets this close to my vehicle, they're going to be really sorry. Okay, lastly, this part really doesn't look aerodynamic or safe at all, so I'm going to also improve it a little bit by adding another cube and then adding a long slope, but this time it's going to stand upwards so that it's going to be a bit more aerodynamic. You know what? Maybe no, maybe regular slopes are a better way of doing this, so that's what I'm gonna go for. Now at this angle, in fact, I can, instead of making those regular slopes, I can just add some more extra detection for myself. I don't know where I put detection, so I just re-added once again. I keep missing this particular block. And voila! This is a very simplistic, fast to create and extremely powerful vessel. I'm going to definitely save it. And that's it for my speed build. So let's see how it handles on the battlefield. Oh, there's one thing I actually forgot about. And no, I'm not talking about decoration, because yeah, I didn't decorate it at all. I didn't add more colors. I didn't add any decals, even though you could add some kind of a cool decal somewhere and just make it look really nice. But regardless, that's not what I'm going after right now. What I do care for is, first of all, make sure that those turrets all have auto aim. I had to replace them, which is why they forgot that they were enabled with auto aim. And secondly, what I want to do is actually cover my fuel reserves. So I can do that by looking for an armor plate. So armor plate is actually very useful when you have something that's protruding that you cannot really protect with regular armor, but you want to have a little bit of protection for, extra protection for a part. Well, you can use this module and it will work quite nicely. Oh, wait a second. This area doesn't look optimal. It looks like it could be quite vulnerable in its own right. So let's go ahead and add cubes in here as well. All right, now this ship should be more defensible. I'm going to save it one last time, save vehicle, and take it for a ride. How does it perform now that it is a lot heavier? Actually, do you have everything you need taken care of? Well, I am a little bit low on fuel, so you know what, I'll add some fuel underneath my vehicle, even though, yes, I know that it's right next to my ammo blocks, so it's probably not the smartest idea in the world, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, liquid fuel. Like so, and I'll just add one in the back. This should be enough. So again, save, black belt, and how fast is it going to move now? It's moving with the extra help from the rocket engines. It's actually moving very fast. I could move over 100 kilometers an hour, which is quite impressive. And I cannot turn all that well either. Something broke off. Something really broke off. All right, but that's okay. I can move slightly to the side, and I can repair my ship so that it is back in its original state. And now I'm going to go ahead and spawn a few enemies all around me, really, to see how well I can handle them. Now, I don't actually have any detection around the back, so this is my weakness. But again, it's fine if ships have weaknesses, that only makes them more fun. Besides, around the back I have a lot of automated turrets, which makes it a little bit easier to take on any enemies. Alright, so let's make sure that this enemy has been taken care of. I've been set on fire. Ah, yes, the enemy hit my... Of course, the enemy was able to impact my fuel reserves, and fuel is, well, flammable, in case you haven't figured it out. So, yeah, that's what is going on over there. But still, with my enormous amount of firepower, I should be able to take care of the enemy quite easily. Although this one's still up. Come on, just die already. How difficult can it be for you to die? He's taking care of none of my turrets, and he still has all of their turrets. Well, I still have a lot of other backup turrets, so maybe I'll be able to take him out now. Come on, just die already. I can see only a silhouette of it in the fire. You know what? Let's go ahead and ram it. Okay, I couldn't ram it. I didn't see the actual rocks, but it is for the most part destroyed. I think there are only like a few blocks left of it. I can leave it. So yeah, I came out of this encounter victorious, nice and easy. So last thing we do before I finish this live stream is I want to test this vehicle in the battle simulator. So I'll go to battle simulator nice and quick. I'll go back to the islands map, which is a nice and peaceful map. It doesn't have really any quirks to it, other than that there is a lot of water to it. So it's a nice neutral map to test battles and whatnot on a larger scale. We're going to have a quick look at it. I'm going to remind you again how awesome this game is, and then I'm going to end this live stream. So let's set up a nice nifty battle over here. How is it going to look like exactly? It is difficult to say. But I think I have an idea. I want to see how all of my vehicles that I created today fare off when they fight against each other. This should be a fun little experiment. So red team is going to get the final hour. Blue team is going to get the first hour over here. And finally the pirates are going to get the black belt. And as you can see, pirates have the advantage, although by less than I expected. So let's see what happens when I let those three AIs duke it out. I'll move them a little bit closer. Alright, let's see what is going to happen. Alright, it looks like actually... Oh, I know what it is. It seems like the AI is actually afraid of moving upwards in order to fight with the other enemies. I guess it wants to try to stay as low as possible with all of its guns. Well, now it has no balloons, so it's forced to stay down. I don't know, maybe some other important module was shot down by the other teams, which is why the red team performed so poorly. That's a shame. I thought that the final hour really had a chance. Right, you know what? Let's reset. And I did say that, in my opinion, final hour could have done well. I stand by it. Let's go ahead and control it. I'm going to quickly move backwards. And as you can see, yeah, it's flying up by itself almost. I'm going to use a bottom camera and start firing on the black belt because I believe this is the more dangerous of the ships. If I can, however, if I can make sure that it is crippled and cannot move, then it should be a lot easier to finish it off. So if only I can get rid of one of its tracks, and then it will be fine. As you can see, one of my turrets is firing in completely the wrong area, but wow, black belt was destroyed! Alright, now it's you and me. The final hour against the first hour. Who is going to prevail in this scenario? Let's go ahead and find out, shall we? Right, the enemy is... It is difficult for me to control my ship because of the world of head the enemy is putting me through. So you know what? I wonder if the AI will do better. Let's go back to the free camera. And see if... Well, the AI really wanted to go down. I don't know why it did this with the final hour. I guess it really was the first hour to win. That is fine, however. It's not a big deal nevertheless. Alright, let's go back to the main menu and I'll give you one final recap on what the game is all about. Dieselpunk Wars. It just went live on Steam today, although for me it's about to be yesterday because of how long I've been live streaming for. I hope that you enjoyed this live stream, and just to remind you, this is a game where you get to track magnificent vehicles and they can fly through the sky, they can swim underwater as well, they can ride on the ground of course. You have over 300 modules to use for your construction purposes, and there's also a very advanced physics engine in the game as well. Every single projectile can ricochet of armor when the impact velocity is too low and the angle is just right. There is actually air drag in the game. Individual parts of vehicles can be flooded or set on fire. There's all of that. So this is a very, very interesting, in my opinion, and I am biased, but still, in my opinion, it's a very interesting and fun game that should give you a lot of fun when you give it a try. I do encourage you to check it out. If you're still unsure if this is the right game for you, you can check out Dieselpunk Wars Prologue, which is a free version of this game. But nevertheless, I also encourage you to check out the full version, Dieselpunk Wars. It is currently out in early access. We're going to go ahead and continue updating the game as we go along. We needed this game to be in early access in order to get proper feedback from our fan base because of how incredibly complex this game is, and because it is an open world game and a sandbox kind of game. It was impossible to test all possible interactions just with our testing team alone. We needed help, which is why we decided to go for early access. Moreover, this will allow us to, over time, give you some more extra features. So, for instance, the next major update for the game will contain an endless mode where you fight against waves of incoming enemies, and as you defeat those enemies, you'll be able to improve your vehicle and continue leveling up until, well, you are eventually destroyed, but hopefully amass a very nice high score while doing so. The game currently has a nice tutorial where you can choose which lesson you want to learn. It has a full set campaign which should take you a few hours to beat, a creative mode which is the meat of the game, and a battle simulator mode which is a lot of the people's favorite mode. Thank you very much for watching. Again, this was Dieselpunk Wars, created and brought to you by Image Power. Thank you very much for sticking out with me for so long. It has been great having you. And oops, and I accidentally silenced the music at the end, so this is a little bit counterintuitive, you see. But nevertheless, Once again, give this game a look, check out our Discord channel where other players and the Kickstarter backers are having fun. Links are on our Steam posts and on the Steam forums, so you should find them quite easily. You can also reach us on Steam forums, on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you like, we're everywhere. Again, thank you very much for watching.